Also, what did Amy do?
She. Nothing. This isn't Dimension 20. It's not even. It's not even Critical Role. If that's what you're here for, go away.
We're here to goat Doctor Who episodes with the sauce.
That's what we're about to do.
I'm prepared to do this to one episode.
Okay, spoilers. This is part 2 of our Doctor Who boyfriend review. Let's make like the undersea cryptid and get cracking. Okay, first episode. We've got the 11th hour. This episode introduces our new doctor, the youngest actor to play the Doctor since Peter Davison, Matt Smith. He was 28 when he got the role. I'm 30 now.
This is when we meet Amy Pond, and she's in her suspiciously empty house.
She's a child. We meet our first companion.
We meet her as a child,
yeah.
And he gives her fish sticks and custard.
Yes.
And then she grows up, and she grows up into a sex pot dressed in a police uniform because she's not a police person, but she's the next companion, and the Doctor's TARDIS is a police box, and it's
very clever.
Well...
So the episode begins with the Doctor crashing, and he crashes in the backyard of this house. He goes inside, and there's this child there, and she's like, "Who are you?" Because she's Scottish. And they hang out, and he's like, "Whoa, you have this weird crack in your bedroom." And she's like, "Yeah, I was praying to Santa to send somebody to fix it." So he's like, "Okay, I'll be right back." He leaves, he comes back, but he's the Doctor. He's it's a time machine. What are you going to do? And he ends up...
Oh no, he's so late.
Oh no, he's so late. And he ends up meeting Amelia 14 years later, I believe. Something like that. It's a long time.
So I think my biggest problem with this is that it begins the problem of Amy Pond having a suspiciously empty life that's like devoid of context around her, and they explain it, but they never fix it. Also, it's when we get our first "the Doctor is so cool, you'd better just run" speech.
Yeah, and those are going to get longer and more frequent and worse.
Yeah. So I would put this, for me, I was entranced by the first half.
Mm-hmm.
Of this. The childhood half was like, Moffat's really doing something, but the second half I was like kind of annoyed, and I might put this at like a B or C.
Okay.
Leaning C for me.
I think that's fair. I think upon first viewing I would put this in B as well, maybe even like a low A.
Are we ranking this based on how good of a Doctor Who Moffat era episode it is, or how good of a Doctor Who episode it is? How objective are we being?
So I think it's going to be tough because I feel like we should be fair and do it by Moffat, like by Moffat's era's like standards.
I disagree. I think we should do it based on the new, like the reboot standards.
Right.
I think if an episode is like less good than the bar we've set by the first 4 seasons, then it should be less good on this list.
Damn.
And that will give us a tier list that will show us how we feel about the era as a whole, as well as the episodes in it.
Right.
Because if I thought something was meh, but it was one of the better episodes in Moffat's era, I'm not putting it in A tier.
I was going to go with the former just because I felt like it would be more fair and would take away a lot of the biases that we have from the stuff that we've previously watched, because he is actively going for something different than the RTD era. Like he is a very different writer with a different sensibility. So judging it based on whether he executes his own ideas well, I think is also fair.
Okay. I mean, we don't have to be biased by comparing it to the previous season.
No.
But what I'm not going to do is say
this is a good episode.
What was the bar and did this cross it?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to be like, was this good? To me, this was like rocky.
Yeah.
It was not a perfect start.
I think it's not a perfect start. I think the only part that I really had a problem with was the fact that, like you, I preferred the kid stuff, and I thought when I was first watching, I was like, oh, cool, we're going to get this, like, weird thing where the companion is sort of, like, we get the companion at different ages throughout different episodes or something. But then that's mostly just, like, a gateway into Amelia's, my imaginary friend thing arc, which we can put this at, like, B. I think I'm okay with that.
I think B's the compromise.
Yeah. I think I would put it in A. Other than... I think it's a stronger first episode than... Actually, no, I like the Christmas Invasion more than this. Never mind. We're good. B is...
I can tell I'm going to be the Simon Cowell with this era. I'm going to rank everything lower than you.
Well, maybe not, because The Beast Below is next. And I remember you really liking that episode.
Formulaic for Doctor Who in a good way. I love Liz 10. I love the nods to Le Guin. So in this episode, the dark secret is that the floating ship of Britain is on top of a tortured whale.
Yes.
And everyone learns this secret when they turn 20. And I'm like, okay, Omelas reference. Nice.
Yeah.
And this is the episode where, like, Amy shows that she has a heart and that she's, like, that grounding force for the Doctor.
Yeah.
It's funny that they do this because her character never moves in that direction. It just feels like they do it because they have to.
The only thing that I can think of wrong with this episode for me is the weird booth monsters. Like the robot
they have no
guys.
Reason to be there.
They're just there because the episode felt like it needed a villain, and I think that's like a trap that Doctor Who in the modern era falls into a lot, where it's like you could just tell a good sci-fi story. You don't need a big, spooky, scary villain that makes a mean face and tries to kill you.
I also think they have a practical effects department that straight up just doesn't even talk to the writers. But that's just like that's a whole, like, the entire IP has that problem. So we don't even need to get into it.
I am definitely feeling like putting, like, I know that we disagree on this, but I think I would put this in A tier. I just think it's one of the strongest episodes.
It's better than Slitheen.
It's... Oh my god, no, we're not doing this. I just think it's a really strong episode. I think it's thematically rich. I like the, what's it called? The idea of, like, voting and then forgetting about it until you have to vote again.
Oh yeah, everyone collectively decides to continue this unethical thing,
yeah,
and then puts it out of mind.
Yeah, I think it's a really strong political episode. I think it's one of the strongest political episodes the show has had. And speaking of weak political episodes, we've got Victory of the Daleks next.
I found myself unable to remember what happened in this episode. I know British people get excited when there's Daleks and Winston Churchill, but I don't have, like, the ingrained love for either of those things.
I mean, like, okay, when I was a kid and I saw we were doing a Winston Churchill episode, I was like, sweet, I love that. Now I'm like, I don't like Winston Churchill. I don't want to see him on screen.
And you know what? The problem is even separate from that. It's just like, there's Daleks, millions die. The emotions didn't land for me.
I don't think millions die. I think a few... Well, I mean, it's the World War II, so, like, yes, millions did die. But, I mean, in this one episode, I think it's another one of those nobody dies episodes, which Moffat is really... Like, I don't think anybody dies in these first 3 episodes.
Oh, no, people die in Victory of the Daleks. There's, like, that woman who, like, bursts into tears because her boyfriend man got roasted over the English Channel. He
died off screen and during the war. He didn't die because of the Daleks. He would have died anyway.
I'm sorry that wasn't bloody enough for you.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean just, like... None of the episodes' actions led to a character dying. That was just like a flavor text of, like, it's World War II and people's hubbies die.
I would give this like a C tier.
Yeah, so Victory of the Daleks, the story is that the Daleks are infiltrating England, I guess, by pretending to be the inventions of a man who turns out to be a robot. And then they use the Doctor's acknowledgement of who they are to unlock some sort of, like, genetic cloning something, and you get this Dalek Skittle Brigade that's created, and they're never seen again because the producers got too too scared when people were like, ew, cringe about the bright colored Daleks. And then Amy's contribution to this episode is that she mostly just stands around, but she does connect with the guy who thinks he invented the Daleks, and she convinces him to pretend he's human long enough to not explode.
I kind of like how things turn out for him.
I
was definitely thinking he was going to die.
We'll get to it later, but I think that moment, rewatching it now, I'm like, oh, this is like thematically related to things that happen near the end of the season. So we'll see that. But yeah, I would put this in C tier. I think it should have been like, I know that you're not going to agree with this. I think this should have been a two-parter. Only because if they're going to commit to this story, I want to see what the new Daleks can do. I don't just want them to stand around and then run away. Like, end the episode with them being created and then have the second episode be about dealing with the fallout. It's a messy, unstructured episode. I don't really like it that much. I'm going to put it in the C tier. Is that what you said?
I said C,
yeah.
Personally.
Next up, we've got Time of the Angels and Flesh and Stone two-parter, the return of the Weeping Angels from Series 3, and the return of River Song from Series 4.
I remember thinking this was kind of cool. Like,
yeah.
We start to get the compelling fearfulness from the cracks. I would say the downside is that, well, for better or for worse, like, the Weeping Angels get developed. They start acting like a biological species with a really defined set of rules rather than a cosmic horror concept. So
yeah.
That was like an unfortunate consequence of this episode, but it's not egregious in the episode itself.
Yeah, I don't think it's egregious. I think it's going to get worse later on the next time we see the Angels. I'm not going to talk about River and the Doctor's relationship in depth until later, but this has a weird thing of feeling like the Doctor and River have met off screen at some point between Forest of the Dead and Time of Angels, because they seem to just like fall into this natural rhythm together, which, I don't know, this is kind of weird. It's kind of weird how familiar they are with each other in this episode when they've only met.
They do this thing with the Doctor and River where they treat us, the audience, like we're watching them already partway through their marriage.
Yeah.
And by the time all the plots with her resolve, we realize we've now seen all of their adventures together, and none of the implied stuff ever happened.
Yeah.
So we get the beginning of a real problem here, but it doesn't feel like one while you're watching this episode.
No, and I think part of it is just like the excitement of having River back because she's such a standout character in her initial two-parter.
Oh.
I think there are whispers of bad things to come, but nothing egregious in this two-parter. Does that feel fair?
Yeah, I'm feeling a low B for this one.
I think so too.
Once you put the 11th hour that high, my brain shattered. I was like, I can't rank the episodes against each other anymore.
I'm so sorry.
But let's talk about Vampires of Venice.
Yes,
because
the cuntiest
this is the
episode of Doctor Who.
Oh, they served.
Yeah.
I called this episode, I think this episode should be like our bog standard benchmark.
Right.
They go to a time period. People are kidnapped. There are costumes. Amy is in danger. There is a local person who dies. The aliens are sympathetic because they just need to breed in the water. It's like an exact formulaic Doctor Who episode at a spicy location that is just conspicuously missing a chance to connect Amy with the world and have her do something other than be kidnapped.
Well, she doesn't get kidnapped. She volunteers to infiltrate.
Oh, that's right.
The girls' school. So the story.
She ends up being tied up.
She does end up being tied to a chair. Yes, I think the explanation of why they seem like vampires to humans. I thought I bought it. I'm fine with it.
For me, it's like top of C tier.
Yeah, 100%.
I would say this episode is the episode that decides whether an episode is on the better or worse. It's like perfectly in the middle.
Right. If an episode is worse than this, then it goes below it. If it's yeah.
Is it worse than Vampires of Venice?
Well, is Amy's Choice better than Vampires of Venice?
Oh, this is the I Do Love Rory episode. This is where it's like layers and layers of illusions, which is not bad, by the way. I'm not complaining that it's all a dream.
Yeah.
It's a strong concept. They just don't, like, they beat you over the head with the mystery box one reality is real, one reality is not. But the answer became obvious to me when in one reality they massacred an entire field full of school children and like turned them to dust or something. This is the episode where Amy reveals that she would die for Rory and does not love the Doctor that way. And
Yeah.
the biggest problem with it is that I don't believe her.
Like, that's the thing with Amy and Rory's relationship. So Rory joins the TARDIS crew in Vampires of Venice, where oh, we didn't even talk about the way Amy talks to like treats Rory in the Vampires of Venice, because I'm like she treats him really poorly in that episode, and then in this episode, Amy's Choice, they're immediately pivoting and being like, actually, she loves him so much, she would die for him.
Amy Pond treats Rory the way that incels think all women treat all men.
Damn!
Just like completely like flippant and just like as a weird object that she's good with until she finds something better, and just like a total minx who's chaotic and sexy and like what's she gonna do next? She's so fickle and flighty, and it's like Moffat doesn't imagine human women, and so he can't write them.
So let me just mention, actually, before we move on to Amy's Choice, because there is one important thing I wanted to talk about in regards to Amy with Vampires of Venice, and it's the very last scene when they're about to leave. I get that they're trying to do this like cheeky, oh, we're her boys kind of thing. I don't like that. I think it's gross. I think it's weird. I don't think it makes sense. People complained about Rose in season 2 being like possessive of the Doctor and weird, but I'm like, she never talked to him the way Amy talks to like Rory and the Doctor. Like, she's very possessive in a way that I just don't think is very like attractive in a character. And the only reason I don't find it attractive in a character is because they never do anything with it. They just kind of like, it's her funny quirk. It's not a flaw, it's just a quirk that she has. And I'm like, no.
It's us being told as the audience that they're family now. I think that's what they're going for.
Yeah, but it just comes off as her being very possessive and weird about it. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it. Anyway, Amy's Choice, where she turns over a new leaf. And so this
I, like,
episode,
half believe it.
I really like this episode's conceit. I like the idea of the Dream Lord putting them in two different realities and being like, guess which one's real. But you're right that because of Moffat's aversion to like killing people off, the episode doesn't really, like, you know what it is, like what the sneaky twist is, because a bunch of people die and you're like, oh yeah, Moffat doesn't kill people, so I know what the answer is.
I think also just British television would not stomach a field full of kindergarteners just like turning to dust. The tone of the show would be spoiled if they were like, and that's reality. That's just how the universe is.
That's true. That's fair. Rory's good. I always like Rory. I think he's my favorite companion of the Matt Smith era. And partially because he doesn't have a story. He doesn't have like a plot attached to him. He doesn't have a mystery box. He's just like allowed to be a bloke. And I really appreciate that from Moffat.
Overall, wouldn't you say this episode is the essence of C tier?
Yeah, I think I would probably put it like, I think I would put it in B, but high C I think is totally fair as well. Next we've got The Hungry Earth and Cold Blood, the Silurian two-parter. I really like this two-parter.
I thought it was cool.
I really like the cast, like the side characters. I thought they were all really cool and fun. I really like Mira Sayal's character, specifically the scientist lady who becomes friends with the Doctor, and I really wanted her to be a companion.
We met so many people who would have made great companions this era.
Yeah, and they're usually women of color. Oop.
I wrote, I love gestating lizards under Earth. I love the resolution. Does it go toe-to-toe with my fave RTD episodes? No, but it's good. I think on our list, that means A tier.
I think this is an A tier two-parter. I think a lot of people don't like it for some reason. I've seen a lot of like criticism of it. But honestly, I feel like a lot of the criticism just comes down to people being like, it's not action-packed, it's not big. And it's like, no, it's not supposed to be. That's not what they're talking about.
Don't these people get bored during shot after shot of companions just running?
I don't know. Oh, Speaking of companion, Amy connects with another human being, and they actually bond, and they like put up a plan together, and then she and the Mira Sayal's character have to like negotiate with the Silurian leader.
I mean, it's good. We can put a tick in the box of times Amy Pond like had a reason to be there.
Yeah, because they are going to get fewer and farther between as we keep going.
But not in the next episode.
Not in the next episode, baby.
I have a premonition, and we would be killed if we didn't do this, but
Okay.
it's also the correct thing to do. I have a feeling we have an episode being goated on our hands.
Like, if I'm going to look at the list of, like, Doctor Who episodes in Matt Smith's era, I gotta feel like this is the best one. It makes really good use of a historical character. I'm not a huge fan of Doctor Who episodes where it's like, oh, we go back in time when we meet a famous historical character, and that's every historical episode. Like, I would love more episodes where they just go back in time and live in a space rather than meeting a bunch of, like, famous people. Whereas this one, Vincent and the Doctor, has the same feelings for me as when I'm watching The Unicorn and the Wasp, the Agatha Christie episode, where I'm like, this is a really detailed and lovely portrayal of a real life person.
I love how the actor portrays Vincent. And
Yes.
obviously everyone on the internet, especially Tumblr, loves the payoff of this episode, and
I mean, how can you not
sort
be
of-
moved by it? It's what Doctor Who should be doing.
yeah, it's this revelation in the third act that the drive for this episode was rooted in the writer's imagination that they would love to show a historical figure their impact.
Yeah, I'm actually
that's
like,
like-
I'm getting chills just thinking about this scene because it's so beautifully shot and written.
And people like it because that's the soul of what Doctor Who should be doing with its concept
Yeah.
whenever it takes a break from being about monsters or whatever.
Yes. And speaking of monsters, I actually like the Crephaeus. I think it thematically fits. I don't love that all historical episodes also need an alien, but an episode like this with a figure like Vincent van Gogh, there's not really much interesting about him that you could do to create like an exciting episode. So I think
It makes you scared of the show sometimes when you know that a monster is so guaranteed. It's like, Doctor Who's going to do an episode about Henrietta Lacks, and I'm like, oh no, our alien's going to possess her cancer cells and turn into a, like, oh god, what are they going to do?
I know. I do miss the classic era when you could just like the series. I think you watched it with me or some parts of it.
Like, remember when they just went to Rome?
I was just about to say the Romans is a perfect example where it's like, oh, the villains are just human beings and Emperor Nero. Like, there's no alien. The Doctor just doesn't have his gadgets and he has to survive in Rome.
Yeah, isn't it enough to reveal that a companion was behind the assassination of Emperor Nero? Isn't that enough to stimulate the imagination?
I love, if you haven't watched Classic Who, watch The Romans. It's also Doctor Who's first comedy episode story. So they were like actively trying to create like this comedy of errors, but it just ends up being like one of the best written serials.
Watching the first two seasons is like doing two trips back in time at once. It's whatever the episode's about and reliving the 60s.
Literally. And another thing about Vincent the Doctor, I really like the tactful portrayal of depression. Vincent van Gogh wasn't just this like ooh-woo depressed genius. Like, he was really difficult to deal with sometimes. And I think the show does a good job of portraying that without like slandering him. And I really liked obviously this Doctor's speech to Amy at the end when she goes back to the future and she's like, oh my god, we saved Vincent van Gogh, there are going to be so many new paintings. And it's like, no, he killed himself 6 months later. And the Doctor's like, listen, like that's mental illness, baby.
It's this raw moment where it's like, oh yeah, the show made you think for a second that his issue was that an invisible alien was harassing him.
Yeah.
The man had a problem.
Yeah. The pile of good things and pile of bad things speech is just iconic. I don't have to say anything else about it. It's incredible. I'm gonna put
Enough. Let's get it in goated.
goated with the sauce. You are really rushing me here. I feel rushed.
I think we should give our opinions and let our opinions be given.
Yes, I agree. Speaking of one of the best episodes of the Matt Smith era, what about one of the less ones, The Lodger?
Oh, the first one that we can throw the fuck away, right?
I really dislike this episode.
We have to watch the cloud cuckooification of Matt Smith's Doctor,
Oh
which
my
sticks
god.
permanently. It's deeply tragic how the Doctor is characterized basically from this point forward.
This is a really bad moment for the Doctor because I get that they're trying to do this quirky, like, ooh, what if the Doctor was trapped on Earth? I think that's a cool concept. It's been done before, but, like, let's do it again. But, like, Matt Smith's Doctor is doing things in this episode where I'm like, this doesn't even make sense in this episode, let alone this character.
Yeah, this was the beginning of me realizing that I wouldn't be happy until Matt Smith was off the set.
Well,
Just
and
the
that's
arc of him getting a job and being perfect at everything while being silly, wacky, goofy, while James Corden was jealous.
James Corden. I have so much hate in my heart for this episode. I'm about to sin. I'm about to sin again. I hate. This is gonna sound really unfair. I hate straight love stories like this. I hate heterosexual romance like this, where it's like, oh, they like each other, but they just can't, for some reason, they just can't admit it. And every time they leave the room, they both put their head on the door and they're like, oh, you idiot, just tell him how you feel. Just tell her how you feel. It's like, I don't connect with that. I think it's garbage. I think it's lazy. I don't see any reason why these two don't just shack up. There's nothing keeping them apart other than their own laziness, frankly. I think it's bad. And you had a running tally of episodes where Amy does something. Tell me, is this an episode where Amy does something?
No, I wrote a note. What did Amy even do this episode? Was she even there? Then I wrote Amy Pond would be the great companion the show thinks she is if Moffat believed even a tiny bit that she was necessary.
The concept of these reviews, if you don't know, is that I have watched the show 5 times. Ferret has watched... This is his first time watching it through. So when we were getting to the lodger, I was thinking, where is Amy in this episode? I know that Matt Smith spends the entire episode on Earth. Where's Amy? What is she doing? Only to find out she's inexplicably trapped on the TARDIS, and her only contribution to the episode is that she calls the Doctor and is like, the house doesn't even have a second floor. And it's just one of those Matt Smith episodes, and I do think this is like a problem inherent to Moffat's era, where the mystery box takes up so much time of the episode when it's not that mysterious. We'll get to another really bad one, but the whole episode is there's this entity that's calling people and is like, help, I need help. And people go into this flat and they get vaporized, I guess. And then the big reveal is that there is no second floor and there's an alien up there. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I figured, like, I know. Why are we spending 45 minutes on this?
People in this neighborhood are being killed. What could it be?
And then they have to show like 6 people all dying in exactly the same way.
While the Doctor like has the time of his life being the most annoying person in the greater London area.
Like, the whole thing is that he's here to investigate and he's trapped. But he's not investigating. He's just fucking around with James Corden and it's so embarrassing.
Throw it in the trash.
I'm throwing it in the trash. There's nothing to salvage about this episode. Okay, our first finale 2-parter. The Pandorica opens and the Big Bang.
I remember this 2-parter as like a real blur. Like, a lot of shit went down. Rory lived for 2,000 years. There's some cool time mechanics being explored, but also every villain in the entire show shows up at once, and the Doctor or River or someone scares them away by telling them how cool the Doctor is. I'm not going to tolerate this 2-parter being called great.
Hear me out. I don't mind the Doctor's speech here when he is at Stonehenge and all the spaceships are around. And he's like, grr, I'm the Doctor, you better run away. And then they do, because it subverts that trope by having them be like, haha, that was a double bluff and we fucked you. I think if that had been the last one, I think that would be great. But the fact that he keeps doing these speeches after this point and they always work, that's what's frustrating. So in hindsight, but in the moment, I don't think it's a terrible plot point. I don't like the fact that there's a mummified Dalek in episode 2, in the second episode, just because they needed a monster, I guess, instead of just dealing with the fact that the universe is being extinguished.
Also, what did Amy do?
So in the first episode, she gets shot.
Good.
By Rory. Oh, by the way, Rory's back, and he's a plastic Roman centurion. Oh, so this is the victory of the Daleks. There's that moment where Amy is like, "You're human. You're not a robot. You're fine. You're not even a robot." And then it works. And then in this episode, they kind of try to do the same thing, but it doesn't work, and he ends up shooting her. I think that was really clever. I don't know if that was on purpose, if that like parallel was on purpose, but I think it's really clever if it was. But Amy, she... nothing. I was trying to think because I'm like, oh yeah, she has stuff to do, and I'm like, no, she doesn't, because the whole two-parter is centered around the Doctor, and when he resets the universe, he goes back through his own timeline of hanging out with Amy. That's the emotional crux, is him being like, "Goodbye, Amy Pond. You were my favorite one." And you're like, okay.
Why, Doctor? Why was she your favorite one?
There are a couple things that really irritate me about this episode. For one, we established at the end of Cold Blood that Rory had been eaten by the time crack, so he was erased by history. But when River goes to Amy's house, she finds a photo of Amy and Rory in their Halloween costumes, and she's like, "Oh my god, Amy's a trap." And it's like,
how dare you?
So he was erased from history. Why was he in that photo? He doesn't exist. It's weird. It's like they forgot their own plot point. Why is that?
Now why would the writer's room at Moffat's Doctor Who forget their own plot?
It's really sloppy stuff. I don't know. It's sloppy seconds.
That was me being sarcastic because this is the first of like 60 times it's going to happen.
I know. And I really like Series 5 on the whole. Like, I think it's got more good stuff than bad stuff. I like every episode except for Victory of the Daleks and The Lodger. I think The Big Bang was fine. I really liked it when it wasn't about being chased by a Dalek. I think the time stuff was fun. I liked the Doctor's emotional... Okay. Sorry, do you have any notes before I rip into it some more?
Oh, yeah, no. I've said my piece. I think it's like a bit confusing and fuzzy for my brain.
Okay. One thing I really want to stress is Amy and how she brings back the Doctor by remembering him, which I don't have a problem with that plot point. What I mind is the way that she's written at her wedding, because she's written like the Doctor. She's not written like Amy. She starts talking like the Doctor when she remembers him, and she brings him back into reality. I didn't notice it my first couple of watches, but in this watch I was like, oh my god, she is not written like herself in this episode. It's so weird. It's like Moffat can't handle not having the Doctor there, so even when the Doctor's not there, somebody else has to talk like him.
That's so true. When she ends up like alone and carrying the story, she ends up inadvertently carrying the Doctor's voice because Moffat won't give us a break from it.
Yeah, and he won't give Amy an actual, like...
a voice of her own that isn't reactions, what do we do next,
Oh,
etc.
And before we cap this, my last very funny observation is that we meet Amy's parents for the first and last time.
That's this episode. The show just goes, by the way, fans, she actually does have a family. Anyway,
never don't get attached. I'm gonna put this in like C tier.
I was gonna say C. I'm with you.
Yeah, below or above Vampires of Venice. I think above Vampires, but under Amy's Choice.
I'm gonna say below Vampires. I wasn't actually that fond of this, even though it was really big. I just feel like big is all it was.
Yeah, that's fair. I enjoy it.
Now, what about A Christmas Carol?
A Christmas Carol kind of slaps. It kind of slaps.
I was gonna say I'm not gonna be too mean to this episode because we get some genuine heartstrings and we learn a new pattern, which is that Moffat knows how to nail a Christmas vibe, even if the details get a little funky if you look too long.
The vibes of this episode, Christmas. Christmas.
Yep. Yes, it was a Chris must.
It was, hello.
The only thing that I found funny is that we have the Scrooge stand-in, and he's just like letting something like 3,000 people die
Yeah.
because he can't be arsed to pull a lever. Like, I get that he's mean, but give him like a mean reason rather than no reason.
It's a little thin. I would have liked him to just be like a capitalist asshole.
Yeah, like imagine if he's just like, it costs me £30,000 in electricity every time I activate this machinery, and then that's all you need.
The cargo that I need is already on the ship. If they crash, I'll still get it. Like something.
Yep.
Like an actual reason rather than just like apathy, which is just not a very fun motivation for a villain.
I also made note, was Amy Pond even there? And I now remember, no, she wasn't. She just had occasional cutaways screaming on the crashing ship.
Yes.
How many days on set do you think Amy Pond and Matt Smith actually spent together?
Girl, I don't know. It shows in their performances, though. Let's be real. The only thing she does is convince the ship to send down a hologram of everybody on the ship singing Silent Night or something to melt Scrooge's heart, and he's like, fuck you. But good time travel stuff. Good, like, ooh, he's...
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we absolutely shatter the canon by having the Doctor like change something live and then see the changes like impact the memories of a person who's still around.
Yeah.
That was a head trip. But it's not territory the old series would have been willing to do, but that doesn't have to be bad.
No, I don't think so. We didn't get any time dragons, so I assume it's fine by their rules.
Approved by the Time Dragons.
Approved by the Midnight Society of Time Dragons.
I think high B.
I think so. I was even flirting with putting it in low A, but I think high B
I was flirting with A, but I think high B is... Oh, let's throw it in... Oh.
The only reason I'm not going to put it in A is because the companions are present but have zero to do. A and above, I need like all cylinders to be firing. And
you're right, I can't be nicer to it just because it made me feel like it was Christmas.
Yeah. Although it is a great episode, we're not saying it's bad, it's just... It's not A. Oh. Hello.
Hi.
Alright, Series 6, the beginning of our woes. Actually, not yet.
Impossible Astronaut Day of the Moon. And this is the funny thing. Shit doesn't get bad right away, but they lay the groundwork for all the things I'm going to hate.
Yes.
This is where Moffat really starts to write himself in the corner, and I made a small inventory.
Please.
There's cracks in the universe, there's the question, there's the silence, the TARDIS is going to explode, he's destined to get shot and die for real, and there's a spacesuit alien child in the 60s whose existence is unexplained.
And there's River Song's identity.
And there's River Song's identity. So he has all those mystery boxes running at once, and he's like, ooh, I bet you're excited for me to reveal all of these in a brilliant masterstroke.
And you're like, unfortunately, we are.
Yeah, I bet the writer's room was real tense during the writing of these episodes. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know.
In terms of this two-parter, I think this is a really strong opener.
I remember liking that they interact with Nixon. I like the gay CIA agent.
Yes.
I'm really fond of those aliens that you forget as soon as you're not.
Yeah, they're called the
perceiving
Silence.
Them. Oh, they are the Silence.
Yeah, they're called the Silence in this episode before we knew and before Moffat knew what the Silence was.
I also found it interesting, while I was like going back over my notes, an interesting note is that this is the first tease we get that Amy is actually a flesh clone who is sleeping in a birthing chamber.
Oh, yeah? Oh, spoilers, by the way.
Yeah, put a spoiler tag on this. So spoilers for season of Doctor Who that I have extremely mixed feelings on. Yeah, so Amy is Schrodinger's pregnant. She's not Schrodinger's pregnant, she's actually pregnant. They tease this mystery box at the end of every episode. I winced every time. She is not actually Amy Pond, she's a perfect flesh clone that she is piloting through a dream that she's experiencing while she lies in a Silence cult birthing chamber. And this is an interesting thing because That means that this early in the show, she's a flesh clone.
Yes.
And we haven't even met the flesh clones yet. That's so wild.
I think it's
they
cool.
can't have known.
Well, I mean, they wrote the whole season as one thing. Because remember, this is a season that was split in two. There was the first half, and then there was a mid-season finale, and then there was the second half. So
That's right.
I think the first was clearly written as a whole, and then the second half was written separately. I don't know if that's true. That's how it feels. Because I really love the sliding like window that shows up every now and then with that woman looking at Amy. I thought that was such a cool like Lynchian visual of just like this weird sci-fi, like, oh, what is that? Like, that's a really good way to set up a mystery, because like the thing that I really don't like about Moffat's way of writing mysteries is that he draws attention to the fact that they're mysteries. So like he'll be like, what is that? What is this? Who is that? But with the sliding windows thing, only Amy can see it. She doesn't bring it up to the Doctor. So you actually feel like, oh, this is like a thing, rather than constantly being told how mysterious it is. It just kind of exists on its own, and I think that's such a breath of fresh air. I really like this two-parter. I like the aliens. I like the orphanage sequence in part 2. Or no, that was part 1. Also, I like the resolution of the Doctor portraying... Because the whole conflict is that these aliens, who you forget when you stop looking at them, they are subtly influencing people through the power of suggestion. So while you're looking at them, they'll be like, you jump off a cliff, and when you're not looking at them, you'll have that thought in your head, but you won't remember who told it to you. So the resolution is that the Doctor uses the moon landing footage to record one of them saying like, oh, we've been controlling you for years, you should kill us on sight, and then portrays,
I loved that resolution.
I thought that was incredibly like genuinely smart.
I thought that was an actual good payoff to what they'd set up. I loved the shots in the montage we got of sort of like the Earth unconsciously uniting against like the controlling force without even realizing they were fighting a war across space and time. Cool stuff.
I thought it was incredible. I really like this two-parter.
I have a feeling that you want to put it in A tier, and I think I might have put it in B.
In the same tier as Christmas Carol and the 11th Hour?
The thing is, if I were doing this alone, I might not have put those that high. So I think for me, it's an objective high B tier, because I remember some really cool stuff. You also reminded me of some stuff that I forgot to write down that I actually liked. So I'm happy with A. Yeah,
I also... one thing, though, I will say, I think this pair of episodes, starts the problem of the Doctor's sexuality.
And here we go.
And I don't mean his sexual orientation. I mean the fact that when he's with River, he stops being the Doctor and starts being this weird sex maniac.
Yeah, so Toto and I have both kind of like described this to each other at various times. Moffat has two different identities for the Doctor throughout Matt Smith's run. One is the toy maker, your imaginary friend, this like gentle being who is like into flights of fancy and kind of doesn't understand the adult world. And the other personality is like a precocious sex pest who is like auga humana. Yeah, and he just like, when River Song gets into the picture, you get these two identities. The writers are just forming both of them with equal speed and commitment and forcing you to whiplash between them really fast. And it's such a product of the 2000s.
Yeah, like there are episodes where like Amy and Rory will kiss and the Doctor will be like, ew, you're kissing, I don't get it. And then like he's with River and he's like, oh, just a little bit of and a little bit of
oh my
just like it's so whiplash. It's so bad. But I will put this two-parter in A tier. I think it rules. I'm gonna put it above The Hungry Earth and Cold Blood, and above Beast Below. I think this is a solid story. What isn't a solid story, however, is The Curse of the Black Spy.
My notes just say, "What a mess." Here, I can take the torch and recap.
You want to take it on? You love
Listen,
pirates.
I love pirates. I really love pirates, but the problem is that Amy Pond kills a man and doesn't care, and why would she? Because the writers by this point know that nothing she does matters. A character fucking disappears because they forgot to show him getting teleported by the show's monster of the week. They just cut the content, so he vanishes from one scene to the next. And then we watch in horror as the writers sat Amy down to connect with a character who's part of the world and just chose not to do it.
Yeah. So one of the big themes of this season is like Amy's and Rory's desire to be parents. I think that comes up a few times, and we'll see that, you know, the idea of Rory, like Amy possibly wanting to be a mother at some point. Except they don't do any of the legwork to have her actually connect with this child who's in this episode. And it really could have helped her later on down the line. Let me just say that right now. The mystery is immediately guessable. Like they spend so much time pretending that it's mysterious, but you're like, I know what this is.
You want to chalk another one up to the pattern of Moffat giving himself away by like having tonal issues with killing bystanders. Is as soon as the pirates were getting picked off one by one, but our core cast and the story itself didn't seem to be that bothered by it, I was like, that's because they're not getting killed.
Yeah, like you can't do this thing where it's like, oh, they're actually not being killed, but then for the whole episode, none of the characters are reacting like they're being killed. Like Amy, the idea is that you're on this pirate ship and you're stranded, and if you get like a cut or a wound, or if you're sick, this alien nurse will show up and teleport you out. But to the pirates and to our characters, we just think that she's disintegrating people. We don't know that she's teleporting people out. And at the beginning of the episode, Amy accidentally scratches one of the guys and he gets teleported. But at this point, they don't know that they're being teleported. To the audience and to Amy and to the doctor and to Rory, Amy murdered somebody. Like, she fully got somebody killed, and they just never address it. Like, I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah, I remember watching that and being like, are we really giving Amy this little opportunity to respond to things that happen to her?
Yeah.
The answer's obviously yes, but it also spoiled the twist. So, I don't know, it's a sloppy episode that had all the ingredients of something I could have liked. I think it's our first D tier for me.
I agree. I wasn't going to throw it away because I think there's a lot that can be salvaged from this episode. But
it's such a script doctorable episode.
I know. It's tragic, really. D is the most tragic tier.
We could start labeling the tiers as the tier of tragedy.
Tragic.
Yes.
Goated A, B, C, tragic, and throw it away. Okay, the doctor's wife. I love this episode. You don't?
My notes on this are really short. I said Neil Gaiman wrote this. It was all right.
Okay.
I don't think I fell in love with this episode.
Yeah.
But I don't think it had any ingredients that pissed me off or made me upset. I think it was a competent episode that didn't stick with me.
Okay. For me, I think this is a really, really great episode, and definitely of the two episodes that Neil Gaiman wrote for Matt Smith, by far the superior one.
What was the other?
Nightmare in Silver.
Oh, I don't remember that one either.
We'll get there. You hate this episode. You hate this. Like, let me just tell you right now. The doctor's wife is cool. The TARDIS gets trapped in the body of a woman, and there's some good comedy around that, and it's a good, like, villain plot as well, because the villain has taken the consciousness outside the TARDIS so that he could infect it with his own and escape, which I thought was a cool... And I like the sequence of Amy and Rory running through the TARDIS and, like, trying to survive. I thought that was... I don't know. I think there's a lot of good comedy in this episode. Neil Gaiman is just a great TV writer.
There are independent moments. There's, like, little flashes of great writing, yeah.
Yeah. And the woman playing the TARDIS, I think she does a really, really good job of capturing this sort of, like, almost Tim Burton-esque like quirkiness that I think works for the tone of what they think Matt Smith's era is going for. However, I will say I always forget that this is in season 6, and I always think it's in series 5. I don't know why, but for some reason a lot of the episodes get shifted around in my brain. I would put The Doctor's Wife in A tier, but I'm feeling like you're not. I'm feeling like you're wanting to put it in B. Or A.
For
Yeah,
me,
B.
it's a B tier.
Yeah.
But it could be that if you appreciate things here and you remember it better, it could be an A tier episode.
Yeah.
There are only a couple episodes that I'm going to single out as ones that I loved, and we've come across one of them already.
The Vincent and the Doctor, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think A tier's fine for this one.
Yeah, I think I'll put it in here. I think it's... Yeah, I don't know. I really like it. Rebel Flesh and the Almost People.
This is an episode that has been hated on the internet, I think, some amount.
Yes.
And I'm going to go ahead and be weird and say these are probably my favorite Moffat era episodes.
I agree. I think a lot of people hate this two-parter for dumb, boring, normie reasons. I'm sorry to say and sound like that, but like I've never heard criticisms of this two-parter that didn't amount to, oh, I thought it was boring. Because it's not.
It's got such a cool concept at its core, and then it plays with it properly using characters and tension that we can connect with, right? Like, the different people have different stakes and motivations established, and they kind of do this cat and mouse thing.
And
it is not perfect.
No, and the fact that they have like essentially a doubled cast because they have most of the actors playing two different characters. Like, they have such a huge cast, technically, of characters, and they all have different things and like you said, motivations and feelings that I think are balanced really well. I really like. The only thing that I don't love about the episode is the gloopy Jenny long neck monster stuff.
Maybe that's what people remember about it, is that very, very immersion breaking, effect.
But I have to, like, I don't know, like, that doesn't bother me as much as it did in, say, the Lazarus Experiment, which is an episode that didn't even have a strong concept behind it. Yeah, I don't know. I really like this two-parter. I think Amy actually gets stuff to do with the doppelganger doctor, which I thought was really... Like, I think they actually explored the idea of personhood in a solid way.
Now let's slow down. I think Rory gets something to do.
Rory also... Well, no, because Amy...
I think Amy is caught on camera next to the doppelganger doctor.
Well, no, because Amy's whole thing is, like, she's supposed to represent somebody who doesn't think about clones as people. Like,
oh, wait, you're right. They actually get to disagree with each other about the take.
Yeah, she has an emotional arc in this episode where she has to learn something, which is what you want from characters. They actually deal with her character flaw in this episode, and I think that makes it one of the strongest Amy episodes.
Now, here's where it gets funny, because I said this was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
But I think objectively it's A tier. Is that weird?
I agree. I wasn't going to goat it because it does something that I think is kind of unforgivable, and that is ignore everything that it tried to tell us right at the 11th hour. So at the very end of the episode, when all is said and done and Amy and Rory and the Doctor are leaving, they get back to the TARDIS, and the Doctor turns around and is like, I came here for a very specific reason, because I wanted to see what the doppelgangers were like in their early stages of development. Then he tells Rory to step away from Amy, picks up the sonic screwdriver, and melts her in front of her husband and the audience
for shock value.
After an hour and a half story telling us that these are people. And I think that's like an unforgivable twist that you can't put in Goated.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Because it leads into the mid-season finale where Rory and the Doctor go to save Amy. But if they really wanted to stick this landing, bring the doppelganger Amy with you. Like, have her be a character. But they wanted the twist and the cool scene of the doctor. Oh, whoa, Amy's melted.
And this is just, there's like a pattern with Amy Pond where like the whole season centers around, I think, truly socially horrific questions about her body.
Yeah, speak on it.
And there's a conversation that we're probably not equipped to have here, me just on an intellectual level, about how the season is very much like, here's sexy, feisty Amy Pond. We've established that she loves Rory. The whole season arc for her is she pregnant or not? And then we like melt her and all that's what's to come, like with her pregnancy arc and her like baby trauma, just projects backward onto the season we've done so far and how the audience was teased about her Schrodinger's pregnancy and makes it super retroactively gross.
Yeah.
If you didn't already find that to be like a silly, empty question to tease us with all season.
So the episode reveals at the very end when the doctor melts Amy's doppelganger, showing that he doesn't actually care about the personhood of clones. But anyway, moving on, that she's 9 months pregnant and she's about to go in labor, and she didn't know this whole time because she's been piloting this Ava without knowing it through her dreams. And she wakes up to herself 9 months pregnant and going into labor. And here's the thing. I don't even mind this as a twist. I think it's gross. I think it's fucked up. I think it's scary. But I don't think that would be out of place in a series that A, had the tone to support that kind of horror, and B, respected that for the horror that it actually is. We'll get to that next episode. What about this two-parter, though? Should we put it in A tier?
This two-parter is A tier.
Everything except for the twist at the the last 2 minutes of the episode are rotten, but everything preceding that I think is excellent. Oh, first of all, the cast, the side cast of characters in this episode, perfect. I love the location. Moving on. That's all I want to say.
I mean, speaking of episodes with good side casts, A Good Man Goes to War, we meet a lot of fun characters.
Yeah.
My first note is, look at that title. Moffat wants the Doctor to face fuck him so bad.
Yeah, man. He really loves the Doctor.
I mean, it's this self-important, like, forgive me, like this Marty Stew behavior.
Yeah.
Just like, he's my special character. I love writing him because he's the most important.
And he's such a good person that when he's mad at you, you better run. He's so...
You better be afraid.
He's such a good guy that when he's mad, ooh...
Oh, intolerable.
Isn't it so...
And ironically, I'm not going to be hard on this episode. It's really the next one.
A Good Man Goes to War is solid. I think it's like C tier. I don't know. I like Madame Vastra. I like Jenny. I like Strax. I think River not showing up until the very end to reveal who she is
Yeah, I remember being like, whoa, that's big. That solves one of the 8 mysteries. Oh god, what's going to happen next?
I like the headless
I do think
monks.
C tier is correct. Yeah.
Oh, but I hate the fact that like an actual male gay M for M gay couple was here and they don't even get names before they're killed. It's so embarrassing.
I was going to crack a joke about that. It's just that the cult buries the gays so damn quick. I mean, in reality, Moffat has some alright representations of gay people. It's just a little weird that happened.
Does he?
Yeah, I mean, well, okay. He doesn't have... Okay, so he has the male gay CIA agent who's never pictured with a partner.
Good. Yeah.
And he has the...
But it was also the
lizardkin
60s.
sword lesbians.
Oh, yeah, Madame Vastra and Jenny. Yeah, that's true. Those three
and they
characters...
don't get buried.
They don't. Actually, Jenny gets unburied, but we'll get there. I don't know. I felt kind of weird about it. Like, okay, with... what's his name? Dalton something? I don't remember his name from the Day of the Moon. But I'm like, yeah, it's the 60s. He's not he works for the government. He's not going to be out and proud. Madame Vastra and Jenny, they're lesbians. It's cool. Moffat, he can write good lesbians because he knows that they're not going to have sex with him. But then, like, having, like, this gay male couple, and they're just like, oh, yeah, we're gay Anglican missionaries. We don't even need names, which is, like, a literal line in the episode. And it's like, this is... And I'm like, this is set, like, a million years in the future. Why would you care? Why is being gay the weird thing about you? I don't get that. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's like if you were watching Star Trek and they were like, oh my god, is that a gay couple? And you're like, yeah, it's the year 26 million or whatever. Like I don't get it.
Imagining you're on Starfleet and the crew is like, oh my god, she's Methodist.
She's... Wait, in Star Trek they actually might. Because it's like a post-religion utopia. They're like, oh my god,
oh, yeah.
She celebrates Christmas. Yeah, Good Man Goes to War, I think I would put it in C tier. I think it's fine. I like Rory.
Yeah, it's like fun.
Every episode I'm just like, I like Rory. I like Rory.
You want him.
I think Arthur Darvill is a handsome man, and I will not say anything more than that.
I think you're correct to put A Good Man Goes to War. I rank it basically better than Vampires of Venice.
Yeah. Oh, I will say though, actually no, I'll save it till the next episode. I have a lot
because we're going to talk about Let's Kill Hitler.
This episode is like, you know what? Do you want to take this one?
It is a character assassination of the writers, the cast, and the showrunner. Oh my god! This is the second. Okay. My notes are as follows. Minor note, this is the second time an episode begins after a time skip with Amy and Rory frantically racing through a rural road to send or receive some cryptic doctor message. That's just a funny pattern I noticed. And we learned that River Song is Amy's daughter, who she just gave birth to, but was raised by a cult, who wants the question to never be asked, but she's also your childhood best friend, who always got into trouble, so you basically quote-unquote raised her, which means you should feel fine about this. Who then gets killed by Hitler and regenerates from a black woman into a white woman and immediately starts just acting vivacious and milfy and pointing Tommy guns at people in the 1940s in Germany. And the time torture police are here, but not for Hitler, for River Song, the programmed assassin who regrets doing this later.
No, let me correct you. The Tesselecta, the time police, they were here for Hitler, and then they were like, oh, River Song's here. That's a much bigger catch. That's literally what happens.
Jesus Christ! What do you mean, Moffat? It's like, this is like the ultimate, the zenith of the Doctor is so important itis. You put Hitler in a room, you're time traveling to kill Hitler, zany, fun, whatever. And then it's like, you have a character go, but she's a much bigger time criminal because she killed the Doctor. That's so gross. That's disgusting.
This episode is disgusting. Like, it's rancid. It's rancid, mama.
And then she goes in the mirror and she grabs her buttocks and she steals some clothes and she goes, oh, while shooting a bunch of Nazis. And I can't, with any aspect of this episode...
Yeah.
They knock Hitler out and leave him in a cupboard and forget about him. And, like, I just want to tell you, in order to do research for this, I read a bunch of, like, the promotional taglines for the episodes. And this one is, like, this is a story about the Doctor, like, teaching his companions that time travel has consequences.
No.
I want you to digest that knowing what happens in the episode.
They promoted it that way?
Yes, they find Hitler, they knock him out, they leave him in a closet. River Song does a bunch of funny, milfy shit, the end. And she kisses him and she brings him back to life. What are we talking about?
Okay.
What the fuck is happening?
Let's think of Fires of Pompeii for a second.
Okay, a good episode.
Let's
Big
just think
whiplash,
about,
but all right.
No, let's think about a historical episode that is actually about time travel has consequences.
Yeah, like, the Doctor has to be convinced that going out of his way to make one tiny little exception, a thing that the show believes is evil,
Well, dangerous, not
But you know, he's
evil.
grounded by his or dangerous, not natural, riddled with loopholes.
Yeah.
But a companion's human grounding convinces him to do this. In this episode, Moffat poses the question, why haven't we gone and killed Hitler? And the answer is, fuck you, stupid. Idiot. Have some milfy Tommy gun action. She guns down every Nazi except Hitler. Get bent. How dare you watch this?
It like it is it is an episode that is diseased. It is a diseased episode. I remember watching it and feeling like deeply embarrassed for liking the show.
I felt so sad for like a week.
Like, I remember sitting next to you and being like, he knows that I like this show. Does he think I like this? Like, I felt like it made me feel embarrassed because I was like, this is not what the show is meant to do. Like, there's a reason people didn't touch Hitler in the classic series and the new one. In the classic series, it's because, holy shit, it was so fresh. And
there's something so Moffatian about him being like, guess what, fans? I'm gonna go there. And then he doesn't.
And he doesn't go there. That's the other part. I really want to draw attention to, like this is going to be a heavy topic, but, like, the racism in the character of Mel. I don't like the fact that Amy has a secret best friend that we've never known about, this black girl, who is so unruly and so prone to getting in trouble that her two white friends basically raise her
on their own. And it's considered a stand-in for the fact that she's actually their Time Lord baby and that she was there all along, so she should feel no sense of loss.
And her story ends, this black woman's story ends because she is shot in the gut by Adolf Hitler, and then she turns into a white woman. It's so disgusting. I don't even know how you could write something like that and not think, like, what am I doing? I
wasn't disgusted. I was too busy being amused that they had allowed that optics to take place. And I was like, there's no way they thought of it. I can't even attribute malice here because they must have simply not thought about it.
Like, you know, not every RTD penned episode was a success, but I don't think any of them were as bad, even up close as this. And people will still say that, well, maybe I won't include this in the VOD because whatever, but people will still argue that Moffat is the better writer over RTD, but I'm like, why do you think that? Like, after watching some of these penned episodes who were written by Moffat, not just episodes in his era, but ones that were actually written by him, I'm like, what are you talking about?
This is the Checkmate Atheists moment, really.
Yeah.
Like, Moffat can't be all that if he let this slip.
It's embarrassing. And it's a character assassination of River, who is already on shaky ground. The doctor Amy has nothing to do, and she doesn't even seem fazed by the fact that her baby melted in her hands.
Oh my god.
I mean,
that's right. Her baby melts in her hands. She remembers that her forgotten best friend was her baby. Then she watches that best friend get shot and turn into River. And she's like, oh good, I'm still a mom.
I'm throwing this away.
Throw it away.
I don't know that I can talk about this episode anymore because there's so much and I don't want to be here for 4 hours straight.
It was my longest note-taking section, so we're through. We did it.
It's I don't even think we mentioned everything, but it's you can't. It's too much. It's too bad.
If you're just arriving, we just shit on one episode for 30 minutes, and yes, it was Let's Kill Hitler.
Night Terrors, another... Wait, no, I think this is out of order. Night Terrors is next. Never mind, Night Terrors.
Yeah, and this episode's all right in my book, although it suffers from being a bog standard, like, studio checklist episode that follows all of that shit we just went through. It thinks that we could just go back to normal after, like, the crazy mid-season we just had. It's another episode of the Doctor being so random and letting his inner child run rampant, and we discover that an alien child who infiltrated an infertile couple's home caused all of this because he was so scared that he wouldn't be loved if they knew he was an alien. And the dad is like, maybe you're right. And then later he's like, never mind, I love you. And then it ends.
This episode is so crap. I'm sorry. People, I'm about to go off. I'm about to pop off on this episode. And I think it's like residual energy from Let's Kill Hitler, but we're going to go there. Night Terrors fucking blows. I'm sorry. It's... People will be like, ooh, Fear Her is the worst episode of Doctor Who. Oh, Chloe Webber is so cringe. Ooh, the Isolus is so cringe. Ooh, the Scribble Monster is so cringe. Ooh. And then they watch Night Terrors, and it's like, this is just Fear Her but worse. I'm sorry. It's crap. I don't find the main boy, and this isn't the actor's fault. Children can't act. That's just a fact.
Children should never be portrayed in media. I don't believe they should be voice actors, stage actors, or TV actors.
The kid isn't charming. The kid doesn't make me want to protect him. He's just like this whiny, scared little boy that I can't take seriously. Chloe Webber, I'm like, no, she's being possessed. Like, that's scary, and I feel for her. But this kid is just an alien cuckoo. Like, he's not anything.
He's like, I wanted to go grant your wishes, and your wish was to have an annoying little boy because you were infertile, and I made you forget that you were infertile so that I could be your annoying little boy wish granter.
Continuing Moffat's trend of taking women's infertility not seriously at all.
Oh, that is a trend. We found so many trends for Moffat. I'm proud of us.
The mom in this episode, first of all, she's not even in the episode except for bookending it at the beginning and the end. And secondly, her infertility is treated like a plot point. I don't know, man. Like, it's so gross.
She also gets hoodwinked, right? Like, forced to forget her infertility.
Yeah.
And, like, that's a weird thing. Can I just say, that's a weird thing to happen, I think 3 times in Moffat's era?
Literally.
It's weird that it's that many, that recurring theme.
I really like the dolls. I really like the scary dolls. I think they're really well designed and spooky. I can't get over the fact that Amy watched her child, her newborn baby, melt into a puddle of goo in her hands, and doesn't have a chance to connect with the child in this episode. Why doesn't she get to talk to this child?
Man, if only the show had a showrunner.
Oh, remember the line, though? The line
theater? Yeah, that's in my notes. This is the episode that gave us, "Are you okay after all that? I think so."
When that line played, we grabbed each other and started screaming, laughing.
We were like screaming and shaking and wheezing, and it was just so clear that Amy Pond was like
not a person
in the eyes of the showrunners. They have these watermelon-sized opportunities rolling towards them to finally characterize her and finally give her something heavy that she has to respond to, and then they just go like, No, she's got to keep up with the Doctor. Chin up. Go on, have an adventure. Go into the haunted house. Go on, Toots.
Like, her child, so much happens to her. And I will say, this is the thing I wanted to say before, but I saved it for this specific episode. Companions have left for less. Like, she has been through so much traumatic material of, like, secret pregnancy, husband erased from existence, child goo, her best friend dying and turning into her child, and but she's Amy. She's a good time gal. Who cares? And it's like,
she works at the kissing booth. Haha.
I miss when Martha was left because she felt mistreated and she didn't want to be a pick-me anymore, or when Tegan left in the classic series because she had seen too many side characters die, and she was like, no, this is too much for me, I'm so sad. Amy's family is so fucked, and she just rolls with the punches. I don't know how.
It's not rolling with the punches because
No,
I would
it's
have loved
not.
to have seen that.
Yeah.
It's nothing. It's acting like it's being directed as though that didn't happen to her character.
Yeah, it's gross. I
It's
this
a
is
good segue though because the next episode is gonna a little bit address this.
I'm
Oh
gonna
right, what tier though?
I I kind of want to throw it away.
Listen,
Or am
I
I
was gonna
being
put it in
mean?
tragic.
Okay, let's put it in
I don't.
tragic.
I was gonna put it in tragic, but I will accept your throwaway. But I think we're being too hard on it because we were pissed at what just came before.
I think, but that's the problem, right? Is that this season wasn't written as a cohesive story. So, like, Night Terrors following off of Let's Kill Hitler, it had a lot of legwork emotionally to do, and it just fully, they don't care. And it's so
It felt like they had a normal episode and they had produced it, and so they were like, "We'll put it here
Yeah,
because it can't go before all of this."
it makes me sad. But what doesn't make me sad in the same way is The Girl Who Waited.
An episode in which Amy does something because it's an Amy episode. She waits. Just kidding. The episode is solid.
It's really good.
It's a very overdue breaking point with Amy and Rory.
Yes, I think it's a really, and it's also like a strong, timey-wimey sci-fi concept. I really love the scene. I mean, Amy doesn't break the Bechdel test, and she doesn't pass it even when she's talking to herself, and that means something to me.
You'll always have that.
But the conversation that she has between her older self and her younger self is really beautifully done. It actually is moving. This idea of like, oh, you meet somebody and maybe they're like not really your type at first, but then you get to know them and they're suddenly like the most beautiful person in the world.
Is this the episode where they did that switcheroo where it's like, is she talking about the Doctor or
No,
Rory?
that was Day of the Moon Impossible Astronaut. In The Girl Who Waited, they are explicitly talking about Rory, and it's fine.
Is it too late to take Impossible Astronaut down to C tier for that shit?
We should. Like, they Shrek'd her. I can't believe they Shrek'd her.
That's my least favorite plot device. And really, it is Shrek. Shrek was the one who bought the rights to do that plot the last time.
But no, The Girl Who Waited, I really like I like the old age makeup that they put on Karen Gillan. I thought it was convincing and subtle in a way that a lot of Moffat's writing isn't. I
thought the Doctor's behavior is absolutely ghoulish,
but
when he conveniently spares the young Amy over the old one.
But I think it's like in character for him. And in a good way. Like, I think this is the writer actually grappling with the Doctor's morality. I think the way the Doctor behaves in this episode is good. I think this is, like, what Matt Smith's Doctor should be. This guy who, like, seems whimsical on the surface, but then when push comes to shove, he can be really manipulative and ghoulish. And I think it really works in this episode. This episode is so close to being goated with the sauce for me, but I can't put it there.
I was thinking close to A, but it's B.
I-
But again, I'm like one tier shifted from you consistently.
I think B is fine, though. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it feels like another normal episode in a way that's... You can't do this mid-season finale of A Good Man Goes to War and Let's Kill Hitler and then just go back to doing these easy-peasy one-off episodes. I think I would have to put it in B for those reasons. But like
I think that's
like
acceptable.
the very top of B. Like, it is on its own. If this was an episode in season 5, this would be goated. But the fact that it's here in the context of the whole season, it really brings it down for me emotionally. Another good episode, though, The God Complex.
Woo! I like this episode. I love the characters we meet from the Craven planet, and
I really love the Tivolian. I love this episode. I think it's got such a cool aesthetic. I think it has such a cool concept. The cast of characters that we have is really strong. So in this episode, Amy, Rory, and the Doctor get trapped in a hotel, an 80s hotel. That the rooms keep shifting and moving, and each room has something for everybody, where it has your greatest fear in it. So the conflict is these characters and all having to be like, don't look in your room because there is a minotaur that is stalking the halls waiting for you to feed on your fear, basically. So if you look in the room, you get overwhelmed with fear, the minotaur comes and eats you and eats your fear and you die. I think that's a really cool, simple setup. And then there's an even cooler twist, I think. Because it's not about feeding on your fear. Everybody who goes into these rooms, they lean back on something. Whether it's their religion, or whether it's like their parents, or whether it's like whatever they have faith in. So it's actually that this minotaur is feeding on their faith and is exposing them to their greatest fears so that they will fall back on that and then it can exploit that. Which I think is just so good. I think that concept...
Quite dark, too.
The concept is so dark and so... But it's so beautifully and tactfully handled, I think.
And it means the Doctor unintentionally leads a whole bunch of people into their oblivion.
Yeah, because...
I think if the episode has a flaw, it's that he's... To the viewer, he feels kind of slow on the uptake in discovering what's missing. He spends a lot of the episode slapping his forehead and being like, why can't I figure this out?
I wouldn't call that a flaw in the episode, actually. I think it's good to have the Doctor sometimes be slow on the uptake, sometimes be on the back foot.
To me, it was a flaw because we get so much airtime of him. I remember there being a lot of shots and airtime of him being like, I'm missing something, but I'm going to keep giving everyone the same strategy as we die. I think there was like a little bit of that.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say, like, oh, him telling people to lean on their faith isn't really a flaw in him because he doesn't know what's going on. This is just like the type of advice you would give somebody, right? Like, oh, this thing wants to feed on your fear, then you just have to be brave and lean back on what makes you stronger. So I don't know. I don't really see that necessarily personally as a flaw. Oh, we have to talk about Rita. Rita, the best character in season 6.
The best character in Moffat's era.
Literally.
Is a one-off.
Matt Smith's era. We haven't seen Capaldi's yet.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, Rita...
The best character in Matt Smith's era is a one-off.
Like, Rita has the same positives that Rory does, where it's like, she doesn't have a big overarching plot to her, so... If Moffat, not Moffat, because Moffat didn't write this episode, but the writer gets to feel free to just make her a character and a person. And she has this, like, I don't know, she has, like, really lovely moments with the Doctor where he's like, oh man, do you want to travel with me? You seem really cool. And me and you are like, yes, 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 yes. Read a companion. But... Her death, I think, is also really, really strong. And not in, like, a ghoulish... It's not portrayed in, like, a ghoulish way where I'm like, oh, that was cheap. Like, she gets a really strong send-off. And a really sad one that just... I don't know, it breaks your heart. I think it's really, really excellently done.
Yeah, I agree.
And the episode...
question is this goated with the sauce?
Well, I think it is.
I was going to put it top of A tier.
Yeah, I think it's goated with the sauce because I think it's really cool that the episode also ends with the Doctor realizing that he's putting Amy and Rory in undue danger and decides to drop them off back on Earth and save them.
And give them the first of 3 send-offs.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, I think on its own, this episode, if Amy and Rory's story had ended here, perfect. Obviously It doesn't, but I'm not going to hold it against this episode necessarily.
I think you can goat it.
I think I'm going to goat this. It's not better than Vincent and the Doctor, but I think it's a strong concept. I think the execution is beautiful. And the fact that the Minotaur is a prisoner just like them really works.
Meanwhile, we have closing time. James Corden defeats the Cybermen with the power of fatherly instinct and love.
If only Amy could do that for her daughter.
Yeah, I wish that worked for all the victims of Series 2.
If only that worked for women. It's only fathers who can save their kids through the power of love. Go on.
I don't even know if I tuned in this episode.
It was a tune-outable episode. It's such a misuse of the Cybermen. James Corden is back for some reason. The Doctor can talk to babies.
Oh,
Oh,
that was, oh,
it's
that was
so
awful.
it's so
It's
embarrassing.
unwatchable. It was like
It's
such. Was Moffat like a new parent during writing this? Because that is such like new parent. I've gotten no sleep, but my baby babbles. He's the king of my existence right now, the little prince, haha. And it's like, you've forgotten what regular people find funny.
I think Moffat was just trying so hard to write for kids that it's like this boomer problem where it's like,
Kids hate this shit.
yeah, it's like this boomer writer problem where they think, oh, this kid will find this other baby character so funny. And it's like, no, we don't.
Kids don't like babies.
No, God. I can throw this away. I don't have anything else to say about it. I just think it sucks.
Let's throw it away.
It
Let's
just
murder it.
sucks.
Wait, does that mean James Corden has two throw it aways?
Yeah, because they're both crap. Anyway, the finale of this season is The Wedding of River Song, which is a mess. It is a disaster.
I believe we get another "the Doctor is so very cool and so very important, look at how big his grave is, billions must die"
Nope.
type deal.
That's next season.
Oh god, I have that to be sad about.
The
Okay, in that case, my notes on this episode are wrong, and I don't remember any of it.
The wedding, well, yeah, it's a really messy episode. The Wedding of River Song takes place. Oh, this one had live chess, which is the only good thing about it.
Oh right, I liked live chess.
Live chess.
The
rules.
wedding was slightly cute, and I hated the episode.
Yeah. So I need to talk about River Song for a second. And I've been saving up this conversation until right now, because she doesn't really come up later, honestly. She's in 2 more episodes, and she doesn't do anything in either of them. This is, like, effectively the end of her arc. The Doctor and River Song's relationship is not what Moffat thinks it is. The Doctor is only in love with River Song insofar as he knows he will be at some point. And River Song is only in love with the Doctor because she was literally programmed as a child to be obsessed with him, to kill him. If Moffat had grappled with this concept and taken it seriously, how perverse this love story is, I think this could be one of the best arcs of the show. He's taking inspiration from a book called The Time Traveler's Wife, which is the story of 2 people who keep meeting out of order because he's a time traveler and she's not. And the themes of the novel are very explicitly, they're grappling with free will, love. There's even a scene in the book where he proposes to her and she says no, and then she says, I only said that so I can exert my free will, and then says yes. So it's like, it's a very funny scene, but it's also very dark. The Doctor and River, it feels like their whole relationship has happened off screen, and it's never grappled with.
It's like we reached the end of River Song. Her first is his last, as she says, and we've now seen their whole marriage, and we realize that it was a weird ceremony that happened because of the plot of an episode, and they never, I don't know, loved each other, had their own adventures, were married in any real sense.
The fact that
they just met a bunch of times.
They got married in this episode, but they didn't get married because they loved each other. They got married because they have to, like, reset the universe, and them touching is what's going to do that. Because the whole episode centers around River being stopping her guns from shooting him, and so the whole episode takes place in a pocket of time. Time is falling apart because River is changing the timeline.
I remember now. We meet Winston Churchill.
Yeah, he's the Emperor Churchill. And I don't even mind that concept really, but again, it's this thing where it's like, okay, River and the Doctor need to, like, meet again because they're the center of this, like, time breaking down. So the Doctor, he has to, like, he doesn't have to kiss her, but, like, they do need to touch in some way, which is fine. But then you get to the wedding and you're like, oh, he's only marrying her because he needs to reset the timeline. And she seems to be genuinely in love with him. So this is, like, really sad on her part. And
Yeah.
the River and Doctor's relationship is just this thing where it's like, you know, if the darker aspects of free will and love and time travel were actually explored, this could be unbelievably cool. But as it stands, they don't really love each other, do they? And nothing they do seems to show that.
That was the most disappointing part, is like when RTD introduced the concept that the Doctor has a wife, I'm like, oh yeah, so someone who's kind of on his level, someone who's intelligent and a mystery and adventurous, and someone who's kept a big book full of all the adventures they've had and all the things that brought them closer together. And it is so typical of Moffat that over the course of many appearances, he succeeds in wearing her down to a submissive, bizarre, multi-personality, like, pebble of tragedy.
Yeah, like River Song is a very sad character, and I don't think Moffat gets that.
No, she's just a MILF.
That's it. And
she's a MILF to him. She's vivacious and fun, and
but she's too old to be a companion. That's why she can. That's why she can only appear 3 times a season, because, like, she can't be a companion because, like, kids won't like it if she's old.
Just me remembering, like, when you're a kid and you have no sense of age of anyone's on TV.
Yeah.
So, like, someone can be your mother's age and you're just like, that's an adult woman.
Mama Bear was 27. I don't have a point. I just want to remind everybody that Mama Bear is 27.
I need everyone to remember how cool Miss Frizzle seemed.
She should have been in the club.
That's it. Miss Frizzle belonged in the club.
River Song belonged in the club, not following around this petulant man-child. Anyway, River...
that said, where are you putting this one?
I want to put it in the tragic tier.
That's appropriate. I'm game with that.
I think it's a strong concept with a very boring execution that doesn't do anything, and also it brings back Amy and Rory after their good send-off in the God Complex, and The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe.
Oh, I've got special feelings about this one. First of all, we've got Christmas vibes nailed once again, but I summarized this for myself as the episode where the Doctor gives some sad children the present of taking them to a planet-sized tree farm that is seconds from being harvested, and so when that goes tits up, he brings home their dead dad out of guilt. I know that's not what happens.
But that's it's what emotionally happened for you.
Can we talk about, like, when you think about a Moffat-directed episode forwards, you're like, oh, there's a beginning, middle, and end. When you think about a Moffat-directed episode backwards, it collapses under its own weight. Imagine the Doctor already knowing what he's doing and being like, I'm going to put in a special box, a special present for the children. They're going to go to a magical forest, a planet of uniform trees that grow Christmas ornaments, that is a tree farm that is going to be violently harvested from orbit. But as long as I don't time it wrong, the children won't be vaporized. And that's what happens in his mind.
I think this episode also it continues this weird, like, faux progressive feminist Moffat cringe. Because at the end of the episode, it's revealed that, like, only biological females can fly the ship home. So that's why the mom is there, and
that.
And the Doctor's like, that's why they call it a mothership.
Oh.
And and it's so weirdly like fridge magnet feminism. Like,
oh right, because it's like, why can only your sister and your mother interact with the alien tech? Because there's nothing stronger than a woman.
Other than that,
write that down, Tumblr.
I do think it's a fine episode. I think there's some good comedy. I think the Doctor actually has a really good moment with the mother when she's afraid of them being happy now because they'll be sad later.
That is a great speech.
I think it's one of Matt Smith's most beautiful speeches, and I wish he had, like, more of those rather than the 3 that we got.
Oh god, does this put it in bottom of B tier to me? Is that enough?
Well, and the cast is fine. I like the fact that the kids aren't written to be annoying and horrible. I think this is bottom of B for me. I think it's B tier.
I think it's well better than Vampires of Venice.
Yeah.
Oh, Toto, are you fucking ready to talk about Asylum of the Daleks?
We've already talked about Let's Kill Hitler, so why not? I think Asylum of the Daleks and Let's Kill Hitler... No, I won't say that they're on the same level, But I do think in terms of quality, they're on the same level. I think they have very different problems. But Asylum of the Daleks, to me, is the worst Dalek story we might have ever had. Easy. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. I'm going to take this, if you don't mind.
Please.
The problem with Asylum of the Daleks is that it's not a Dalek story. It's a Cyberman story, pretending to be a Dalek story. But Moffat thinks the Daleks are more iconic than the Cybermen, so he gave it to the Daleks. And I think that's so egregiously stupid. The Doctor and Amy and Rory are here because they needed a third send-off. Because they got one in the God Complex. They kind of got one in The Wedding of River Song. But you know what? I just don't think we're done telling their story. Yes, we are. And this episode proves it. Amy and Rory are divorced for some reason. Actually, I do know the reason. It happens in a webisode. They get divorced in a webisode, but that plot line is carried over into the main show. So if it feels like it came out of nowhere, no, you're wrong. It was all there.
You had to watch Pond Life.
The same web series where the Doctor gifts them an ood. Remember the 3 episodes of the RTD era dealing with the Ood being slaves and freeing them? He forgot
and how the Doctor
that.
sees nothing. The Doctor sees nothing more ghastly than their treatment as
Slaves.
valets for anything.
Cattle.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're not reviewing Pond Life, but it's just emblematic. Asylum of the Daleks. Amy and Rory are broken up for some reason. Who fucking cares? It's a very dumb reason, I think. I'm sorry. I know that I maybe seem a little callous for this, but the whole reason that they got divorced, it's revealed that it's because Amy was sad that she couldn't give Rory a biological child because the experiments that were run on her by the Silence left her infertile. Okay, so
fuck.
Here, let me break this down for you guys. Amy's infertility is only ever conceptualized through how it hurts Rory, and I think that's psychotic. I think that's completely unhinged and disgusting. Her feelings are never really brought up about it. The only feelings she has is that she's sad she couldn't give a baby to Rory. And I think in TV and storytelling in general, infertility is a pretty rich source of storytelling, I think. I think there's a lot of emotionally potent content that you can make out of it. However, I do think this is 2011. This is not, just adopt. What are you talking about? I'm sorry if that seems callous, but I'm also don't get divorced over this. This is so stupid. Anyway, that's a minor point. The larger point is that Asylum of the Daleks has them being sent to an Asylum of the Daleks, which is a planet-wide asylum of Daleks. And it's just, there are nanites in the air that convert you into a Dalek, which is not a Dalek mechanic. That's Cybermen.
It's not just not what they do. It's on principle, it violates what they are.
Yeah, because their whole thing is genetic purity. They're fascists. That's their whole allegory, right? It's never been a perfect one-to-one allegory, but whatever. The idea of them converting people is weird. And then there's a moment where Amy loses this armband that keeps her from being converted, and the Doctor's how do you feel right now? And she's really afraid, and he's good, hold on to that. Fear isn't Dalek. Daleks don't fear things. And it's what are you talking about? Daleks are the most bitch baby fear, because they're fascists. They're bitch baby fear bots. They're scared of everything. That's why they're obsessed with genetic purity. That's the whole thing. Cybermen don't fear anything because they've had all their emotions ripped from them, but okay. It's sort of Let's Kill Hitler in the sense that I could talk about it for hours, but I really don't want to. But this is our introduction to Oswin, a character played by Jenna Coleman, who leads the Doctor, Amy, and Rory through the asylum to come save her. And when they come to get her, surprise, surprise, she's been fully converted into a Dalek. Oops. And it sucks. What are your notes?
I didn't hate it nearly as much as you did, and I think my notes reflect that because
That's shocking.
I know. As someone who's unlearned how to respect canon during Moffat's era, I think the actual journey is all right, and the imaginary Miss Souffle, who got converted to a Dalek, ooh, Daleks do that for some reason, was fun enough.
Yeah. No. Look,
I can let you take the reins on ranking this one.
Oh, I'm gonna throw it away. I think it's garbage. I think it's top to bottom garbage. I think. Oh, and my last point. I don't like the fact that Amy slaps Rory, and that is taken by the Doctor and Rory to mean that she still loves him. I think that's disgusting. I think I'm sorry, this is gonna be cringe, but reverse the genders. I don't think that's okay. If this was Rory slapping Amy, and they're like, "Oh, that's Rory," I don't think they would be cool with that, and I'm not cool with Amy doing it to Rory. Throwing it away. Dinosaurs
now we have
on
to
a
talk about
spaceship.
dinosaurs on a spaceship.
One of the few really good villains. I like the villain of this episode. I think he's perfectly dastardly.
That's true. Moffat hasn't done a lot of villains where it's just like he has a clear motivation and it's utterly hateable.
Yeah.
Like, kill that guy, Doctor, and then the Doctor's like, "No, I'm the Doctor."
And then he's like, "You know what? Fuck it. This guy sucks."
I do have some issues, though. I did
Yes.
tune out during the middle. I thought the whole thing was like really kiddish, really consciously kiddish. And then, of course, in contrast to how kiddish it was, why does Nefertiti want to fuck the Doctor?
Why does
every woman want to fuck the Doctor?
I don't know. I don't. Ferret, I hate this. I don't know. Also, why does Nefertiti... Because, okay, cool thing about
Nefertiti?
Cool... cool thing about Doctor Who, when there are cool historical gaps in like historical characters like Agatha Christie or Nefertiti, that's a cool creative breeding ground for Doctor Who. I don't think that the resolution that Nefertiti went basically missing because she decided to settle down with a poacher is good. I don't think the Doctor... Why is the Doctor friends with this guy, by the way? Apparently they're like friends, but it's like...
Oh yeah, he loves this colonial era big game hunter because that's the kind of person the Doctor would see something in.
Yeah, but then the Doctor gets mad at the villain for being a poacher, and it's like, but they're equally... Like, this guy that you're friends with is also a shitheel, you know what I mean?
I think C tier... I think low C tier. I think this is worse than Vampires of Venice by
I think
quite
like,
a lot.
Like bottom of C tier, under Victory of the Daleks.
Ooh, rough, but yeah.
A Town Called Mercy. I'm happy again.
Yeah, for one episode, we're doing kind of solid. I always love British portrayals of the Old West.
Of course.
It's also a return to form. I'm going to point out a pattern again, which is this is yet another story whose opening is narrated by a woman who we will never meet, who thinks the legend of the Doctor is so mythical and cool.
I don't know why they keep doing that. It's so lame.
It's their favorite intro. It's bizarre.
It sucks.
This is the story of the day the Doctor came.
Except the twist is always that they're not talking about the Doctor and they're talking about somebody else. And it's like, you can't keep doing this twist.
Or the twist is that, like, it's not the woman from the show, it's her great-granddaughter. The legend lives on. Even in an upcoming episode, Amy Pond does this.
Literally.
She goes like, and this is the year the Doctor came to stay. Sorry, I didn't make her Scottish. Basically, like, Amy and Rory do something. They have a disagreement on the situation briefly, but it's so late in the game that... And they've already been retired once, that, like, the characters feel really over it.
Rory gets sidelined in this episode, but I think that's okay in this one instance because the real... I think this episode is really, really, really good. Is this the first episode of the Moffat era where Matt Smith's Doctor is actually, like, morally challenged?
Yes, it is the only time.
I'm not asking that as a joke. I'm genuinely asking that because in the I know we're not comparing the eras, but in RTD's era, you know, the 10th Doctor was challenged on his ethics multiple times a season.
So
whereas
I think I kept track of this when I researched, and this is the Doctor's second or third moral conundrum.
Okay.
He faces a moral conundrum in The Beast Below, which Amy resolves. He faces a conundrum in The Vampires of Venice.
Does he?
Yeah, because they're like, we need your water to breed. And he's like, I'm sorry you lost your home planet. And I forget how he resolves it because it wasn't very interesting.
Oh, I mean, yeah. Yeah. But I think this is the first time where I actually felt it outside of the God Complex and maybe The Girl Who Waited. But The Girl Who Waited, he wasn't really being challenged. He was just being manipulative. Which, again, fine. I like it. A Town Called Mercy I really love because it's the story of the Doctor, Amy, and Rory coming to this western town for some reason. I don't know why they honestly, the show has given up any pretense of why the characters are going where they're going. They find that there's this gunslinger cyborg who's hunting this alien who landed in this town and is actually like cured cholera and like has given them electricity like years earlier than electricity should be.
I did like that.
Me too. And I think his name's Jax, he's portrayed really well because it's revealed that he is a war criminal and that he actually created this cyborg, and that this cyborg was part of a series of experiments to create soldiers. And that's why this gunslinger who is, deprogrammed is coming to kill him and take revenge. And it's this really beautifully wrought story of like revenge and justice, and what does it mean to enact justice? Does the Doctor have the right to enact justice? Has this alien war criminal changed his ways? Like, it was a very like almost Star Trekian episode.
Yeah, although as I recall, the Doctor gets conveniently, like, the decision gets made for him. The war criminal goes and detonates himself.
I don't really mind that, to be honest. We've had lots of instances of side characters like either knocking out the Doctor, like River Song in her very first appearance knocks out the Doctor. Like, I actually don't mind it because I don't think the Doctor, like, I don't think the episode was saying that, like, ooh, the Doctor needs to make this decision. The episode is saying it's not his decision to make. So I kind of actually like the fact that the decision is taken away from him by the character who this is actually going to affect. You know what I mean? I think the writing was really tight. I love Amy's conflict with the Doctor where she's like, what are you going to do? Hunt down everybody who ever made a bullet or a bomb or a gun? Like, are you going to just like go around the universe putting people in their place? And I don't know. It was a really good moment for Amy. I wish it was done earlier in her run, maybe before she left the show. But is it goated or is it just high A?
It's not goated, unfortunately.
You're right. I think you're right.
I'm gonna put my foot down there.
Yeah. I'm gonna put it at the top.
I don't think there are any goated episodes during the bizarre denouement of Amy and Rory. I don't even put it top of A tier for me. I thought this is the episode that like an average episode should be this good.
You know
so
what?
It feels weird that this is a stand-up episode.
And that's, I think, what you were talking about at the top of the stream, where it's like, if we're comparing these episodes within the Moffat era, A Town Called Mercy would be a mid-episode in a previous series. I think I'm going to keep it in A, but I'm definitely going to move... Oh, no, but it's better than
I don't think it's better than the Reptiles, though.
Damn.
Bottom of A, I think that's right.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Even though personally, for me, it's a highlight of the entire Matt Smith era. I agree.
Me, Stone Cold Simon Cowell coding. I don't think about this episode that much.
The Power of Three.
Oh boy, the cubes.
What a waste of an episode. I'm sorry.
Look at where this is positioned in the series. This episode was supposed to be the last beautiful, symbolic stretch of time that united these three characters that we care about so much, gives them a whole year to be together. It opens with a cheesy narration from Amy being like, "This is the year the Doctor came to stay." And like, but we just give 30% of all humans a cardiac event and then stop it.
You know what's really fucked up, though? He doesn't even stay. He stays with them for like an hour and then flies off in the TARDIS.
Because he's fucking bored. He's bored of not knowing how to solve the mystery because Moffat doesn't have the answer written for him yet, so he can't have solved it.
This is a Chris Chibnall episode.
It's fine. They're all Moffat in my heart.
There is a certain level of blaming the showrunner that you have to do.
I shit on him a lot, but it's funny how his calling cards become really loud.
Yeah. The Power
The
of Three,
relationship is supposed to grow here, but it doesn't.
I feel like it's just kind of like a boring episode. I don't really remember. Well, okay, I have a very good memory, so I do remember all of the episode, but I don't know, none of it's that interesting. I think the idea of the Doctor, again, being landlocked on Earth, like the Lodger, is a good idea that should be explored, but it's not really that explored. I don't know why the Cube created those weird mouth people.
This is what I'm talking about with the freaking practical effects and costume department who just like do things without the writer's consultation. There's mouth people because we have the prosthesis, Moffat. Get the actors in there.
7 comatose people die at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
They get exploded in a spaceship. But they saved Rory's dad. Then a 30% of the planet has a cardiac event, and they're fine. They woke up.
The trillions of dollars in government expenditure. I can't think about Doctor Who too much. It punishes me for doing so.
I think certain episodes do. This one is definitely one of them. I think this is like tragic again.
Let's do it. It's not good.
I don't like this episode.
Remember when Amy turns to the screen at the end and is like, a cube is the power of 3?
It's so corny. And it's another episode where it's like, oh, what's the mystery? What are these boxes here? Oh, they're being random. And you're like, I know. I get what this... Like, I figured it out like 20 minutes ago. It's another...
Yeah, it's like, do you fucking suppose it's an alien invasion?
That's why I put it down with Curse of the Black Spot, because they have the same exact problem. Same with the Lodger. Oh my god. This is why I prefer the R2D method of writing, where you center characters and not mysteries. Like, people will complain about R2D's Deus Ex Machina endings, but I'm like, but I still like those episodes even without that. Whereas Moffat episodes that don't stick the landing because of their plot, I rank them a lot lower.
Moffat does write mysteries. They're so seldom good.
And now the Angels take Manhattan.
Oh boy, it's time to retire Amy and Rory for good this time.
Fucking
at the last
finally.
millisecond. I think there's elements of this episode that I like. It does
Same.
a couple timey-wimey things that I'm like, you should always be doing this shit.
I really love the concept of the battery farm that the Angels have set up in this hotel, where they keep sending people back to feed on them until they die of natural causes. That, I think, is the single romantic and genuinely kind thing that happens between the Doctor and River is when he gives her some of his regeneration energy to heal her. But that's
after he breaks her wrist because he's having a tantrum about causality or something.
He does not break her wrist. She gets trapped by the Angel, and he says, "Don't break your wrist because you need to prove to me that the past can be, or the future can be changed."
Oh, right. And then she conceals her broken wrist. I don't know. I remember an interaction between them being like, oh, the Doctor doesn't like endings. The Doctor doesn't like endings.
Well, this is a thing where River keeps like doing these speeches where she's like, the Doctor doesn't like goodbyes, never let him see you get old. And it's like, ew, you're an abuse victim, River.
Whenever she talks about the Doctor, she ends up making him look like the world's biggest red flag, and the writer's room doesn't seem to know.
No. I thought the cherubim were really creepy, the baby angels.
Yeah, that was good.
On the other hand, the most stupid angel concept I've ever seen was the Statue of Liberty. I think that tanks the episode so hard for me.
I'm wondering if this episode is tragic, despite me. Is this like top of tragic? Because I liked little bits of it. I like the leap of faith at the end, for instance.
I really liked Amy and Rory jumping off the building together.
Yeah, but then it's so funny because it's like that moment had to land that way. But anyway, we are retiring them. So oops, you missed one, Doctor, and now they're back in time.
Yeah, it's weird. I wanted to talk about Amy's departure and Amy and Rory's departure because I thought it was handled really well. Like Rory finding his own like old man self dying and seeing that. It's really dark. It's really spooky. But then at the end, and this has happened every time I've watched this episode, Amy letting herself be taken by the angel should hit harder for me than it does. Every time I watch it, I want to cry. I want to feel something sad, and I do. But then I think about, like, she's overstayed her welcome. I'm just happy to see her go at this point. When Rose and Donna left their respective seasons, when they left the show, it was always, like, the feeling of, but they had so much more to give. Like, Rose and Donna get separated from the Doctor because of tragic events, and they both have this, like, sense of, like, oh, I want another season with Donna. Oh, I want more Rose. I want to see their relationship develop. But with Amy, it's like, she's been done 3 times already. Like, get her out of here.
Wrung out like a cloth.
Yeah.
And also, we've thoroughly proved that, like, no matter how, we could get infinite time with her, and Moffat will not do what needs to be done to humanize a companion.
He did not do what needed to be done.
To be done. It's like, oh, he'll put her through trauma after trauma after trauma, but none of it will shape her or reveal her or make any of it matter.
Yeah, like if Amy and Rory had only been around for 2 seasons, and then the story ended with Amy being traumatized by what happened to her at Demon's Run, and just being like, we're going to find my daughter and then I'm leaving, I think that would have been the perfect ending, rather than this, like, protracted epilogue.
Yeah, I'm calling it this tragic denouement.
This is top of tragic. And now we've got a new companion. Well, no, not
Hooray.
really. Not yet. Yeah, there isn't much I have to say about a lot of these episodes, so I think we can...
I also don't have long-winded notes. I mean, the Snowmen is where we meet the Great Intelligence. Again, Christmassy vibe is on point. I love her as a governess. I like that her employer is hot.
I wish she had stayed a governess. And I think that's a popular opinion. Lots of people wish they had just been this Clara.
Oh my god, a companion from the past. Can you imagine it?
Yes.
Because they've done it to great success.
Yeah. I really like her. I really like that Strax, Vastra, and Jenny are back. I think they're doing a good job. I don't like the one-word test that they do in the middle.
I was going to say, it's part of this bigger thing where the Doctor is really moody. He's, like, all beat up over losing Amy, and it makes him, like, calloused. And I just think, well, cool. What are we doing? Are we doing the toy maker, the sex pest, or the tantrum boy? Which is it today?
Like,
Matt
the thing
Smith?
is, I wouldn't even mind this. I would love a season of the show where it's like the Doctor is upset over losing his friends, and so he just stays in one timeline. In, like, one... Like, if he had just stayed for the rest of the season in, like, the 1800s, just vibing with his friends, I think that would have been a slay. And then you could have the governess lady be the proper companion, and I think that could have been fun. But instead, they just decide to throw her away, literally throw her off the TARDIS and kill her, just to replace her with another boring, modern, brown-haired girl.
Where do we rank this Snowman?
I don't
think
know,
we've set
like-
some high highs and some low lows.
I think it's like a C. I think it's like a low C.
You're right.
I don't know, it's fine. I really like, I like the I don't know, I really like this version of Clara. Oh, by the way, this is the same actor who played Oswin in the Asylum of the Daleks, and it's like, who is she? She keeps dying.
Oh no, she keeps showing up and dying twice. What a mystery.
Yeah, instead of, just, it's fine.
Because we got to talk about, and this was hilarious to me. We see her show up and die twice, and the show's like, you got an audience? That's a pattern. Now for the Bells of St. John, it's the evil Wi-Fi episode.
It's so...
I hate.
I hate.
I hate that Clara is a walking mystery box millennial who doesn't know how to connect her laptop to the Wi-Fi.
Can we...
And I hate that she gets her only character skill downloaded into her brain via a contrivance.
Can I just speak about Clara for a second? Where's the Wi-Fi? Where's the internet? Excuse me, operator. Where's the internet?
She calls.
I can't
She
find
calls on
it.
the telephone. She's a 26-year-old in like 2011, and she picks up her landline telephone to call a tech service to say,
Where's the
there's no
internet?"
Wi-Fi. Oh wait, no, she's not even calling them and saying, there's no Wi-Fi. She calls them and says, my computer isn't connected to the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, she says, where's the internet?
Where's the internet?
Like,
What were they thinking?
and they go out of their way to make... And I'm okay with, like, Okay, here's the thing. I'm okay with like dumb companions because we had Joe Martin, not Joe Martin. Oh, I forget her name. She was in the third Doctor's era, but like her whole arc is that she begins as this girl who nobody takes seriously. She's kind of dumb and dopey, but over her travels with the Doctor, she becomes more self-confident, more intelligent, and she like leaves a better person than she came in. Clara, she just gets her intelligence downloaded into her. It's so embarrassing.
This it says so much about Moffat that we've already said that I almost feel the need to move on. The only question is this low C or is it tragic?
I was actually going to say throw it away.
I mean, I think there's merits to this episode.
I think there's
the villain is kind of cool.
So I like that the villain is like somebody who was like basically groomed from childhood, and she doesn't remember. Like when the Wi-Fi is shut off, I guess she reverts back to being a child, and it's really like Black Mirror, ooh, crazy. But I do think this is tragic because there's so much wasted potential.
I know, they took a good concept and they were like, we have to badly develop our bad character and our angry tantrum doctor.
I'm putting it above Wedding of River Song.
Yeah, you can tell how checked out I am at this point with this era.
I was feeling bad because I was like, this is like embarrassing. Like I felt embarrassed watching it with you.
It got to a point though where I was like, what thing will I take an issue with next? And I got like excited for episodes that you were not excited for.
Rings of Akaten, an episode that I'm a lot softer on now than I used to be.
This is
a lot of people don't like this episode because it has a child in it, I guess.
And she sings.
But like she's fine. Like I don't know, like the fans of this show hate girls so much, like child girls. Like
I have a couple issues with this episode that aren't related to the child.
The episode's not perfect. It's not incredibly good, but I like the fact that we get a bunch of aliens and none of them are the villain.
This is the episode of Clara being the specialist girl who can keep up with the specialist boy, and her magic parental leaf is more important than the memories of a whole galaxy.
I forgot about the fucking leaf.
I had to remind you about the leaf. The leaf is not good. It's not a good attempt to characterize her.
Stupid leaf. Because it's not characterizing her, it's characterizing her parents. Like,
I mean, it means that she's meant to be characterized by loss. But we do this in a one-episode throwaway, and Moffat does the Moffat thing, where he's like, here's this symbol about a character, and I'm going to tell you that it's so important, because a whole big, big, big galaxy was actually less important than this one leaf that meant so much to this beautiful young girl.
It's so gross.
It's very emblematic of how he makes his characters seem special.
Yeah, and like the thing is, we don't see her parents after this except for Matt Smith's final episode. Like, we don't see her dad again. Her mom died, I guess, but her dad is still alive. Why didn't we see him? Oh, because you didn't want to. He's not hot.
Parents aren't hot, so we never want to see them on screen. But, like, I feel like I could teach a seminar on how, you know, the Mary Sue, Marty Stu phenomenon. Yeah. There's, like, a lot of bad discourse about it. I think the phenomenon of, like, a self-insert that the story tries too hard to get you to like and sympathize with, and also they're powerful and can do no wrong.
Gigi Good.
That's right, Gigi Good. That phenomenon does exist, and in order to pinpoint its true face, we need look no further than characters that Moffat personally likes.
The Doctor and Clara.
The Doctor and Clara.
It's literally you're just watching a Mary Sue and a Marty Stu run around. This episode on the whole, I think is perfectly fine. I think I would put it in C tier.
Yay, me too. I think C tier was my choice.
Above Vampires of Venice? I think so.
It is actually a little more interesting. She at least, like, responds to the world around her.
Yeah.
She does things that Amy didn't get to do.
And we had another Doctor speech of like, ooh, I'm so special and I've lost so much. And again, if this was the only one, it would be a really powerful moment. But because we've had 18 in an episode up until now,
Matt Smith's Doctor is given the vibe of someone who doesn't get a table at a restaurant and goes, I'm actually kind of a big fucking deal.
Literally. Oh my god. Cold War, I really don't have that much to say about this. It's whatever.
I wrote pretty good. Clara wants to please Daddy Doctor because, I don't know. Who is this woman? Why does she do the things she does?
Oh, she actually reacts to a dead body, which is something that Amy never did.
How do we feel about low C tier?
I mean, I feel really good about it because this episode is really forgettable.
I love that our chart is evening up the further we go through.
I like not the villain of the episode. Like, I like the idea of, like, the Cold War being paralleled, but it's not... I don't know, it's, like, it's whatever. Like, I don't know.
But things pick up a little bit with Hyde.
That's true. Our our ghost story episode with two good characters.
Yeah, like, what does Clara do? I have no idea. I think she holds on to the apparatus while the doctor does the real work. But,
Yeah.
like, the ghost is compelling, and I like the stupid-looking bad turtle monster.
Me too. I like the Crooked Man. That's what he's called in the script. They don't have a name for him.
That's great. He looks really weird. More of that.
And I like the three side characters. Like, I mean, we don't get much from the time-traveling lady because she's, like, the ghost. But I like the idea of a ghost just being a time anomaly. I think that's very, like, Haunting of Hill House. It's just another episode where I don't really remember it. Like, I don't remember it fondly or negatively. I just don't remember much of it.
Do we want to say top of C tier? It's better than Vampires in Venice.
It is better than Vampires of Venice, and I think it's better than Rings of Akaten. I would put it up near the top of C.
Nice, nice.
Unfortunately, though, we have to talk about Journey to the Center of the TARDIS.
I'm having flashbacks already to just this bizarre performance.
What was that?
You know, these three brothers who are like running a junking company, and they get caught up in, I don't know, the TARDIS is having a tantrum that is lethal to people.
Well, they cause it because they injure the TARDIS and it starts going haywire.
It starts recursively creating infinite worlds in which they are weird little burnt to a crisp mummies.
I like the moment. I think the Doctor is well characterized in near the beginning of the episode when he has the three guys come in and he's like, oh yeah, let me just, whatever. And then he locks them in and he's like, listen, you hurt my ship and that's why it's going haywire, so you're going to help me fix it. I think it's a really good moment for him. It's the only moment that he has that's good in this episode, but I'm really trying to be kind to this episode, and I don't know why.
Let me not try to be kind to this episode, because this is the episode where we get the quote-unquote twist that one of the brothers who is an android is not an android, and they just told him he was an android as a fun prank, and he's believed it his whole life, and the twist is that he's a flesh and blood human, and then I think he dies. Because
he doesn't die.
He doesn't die.
The Doctor just has to be like, he's your brother, and then they love each other again.
Oh, I don't know, man. And there's this stupid timey-wimey thing where it's like, oh, those mummies are the future us, and we can't adopt the poses that they're hobbling in, or else it will mean that they'll come true.
It's meaningless. It's literally meaningless.
Hey, this episode's shit. Is it tragic or throw it away?
Well, there are two things I want to say. I love the image when they get to the engine of the TARDIS and they see it's exploded, but it's like the TARDIS is a time machine, so it's been able to freeze itself at the moment of its explosion to buy them time. I think that image is really cool when they walk into that white room with all the pieces scattered. I love the concept of being able to set an episode in the TARDIS. I wish the show would do that more.
It's got some cool environs that you're like, where are these all the rest of the time?
Yeah, it's really cool. And then it has this weird, like, half resolution to the Clara thing where the Doctor just, like, shouts at her and he's like, who are you? Why are you a mystery? And she's like, I'm not. What's wrong with you?
It was like the show admitting it was annoying.
Well, and that's the thing. I think a lot of people will defend this Impossible Girl arc because they're like, oh, it's supposed to show that the Doctor is not treating her like a person. She is just a normal person, but he's treating her poorly and he has to learn. And I'm like, no, but the show doesn't disagree with him. She is a mystery box. And we don't get to see her family. We don't get to see her real life. Like, we don't know anything about her. The show is pretending to grapple with those themes, and then people are giving it accolades for pretending to do what it's pretending to do. The Crimson Horror
Oh, this is where everyone gets dipped in the juice and comes out juicy and red, and then
comes.
yeah,
They
they all
get dipped in the juice and
come.
they come.
This is the one where there's like the abused monster woman
The
who's
blind
like,
woman, yeah.
oh right, no, I call her the monster woman because she calls the doctor her monster.
Yeah.
She's like, my monster. And I'll tell you what,
She's great.
I was cool with this episode in large part because that side character's story got a comeuppance,
Yeah.
and that's kind of all I wanted from this.
Bro, she got to kill her mom. I love that.
Is that enough
No.
to make it B?
No! B?
Okay, remind me what sucked about this episode, because I'm just remembering the good things now.
Girl, it's first of all, it's like mostly boring.
Okay, that's true.
Like it's such a forgettable episode. It has another thing where it's like this really underutilized concept of like the villain is like this cult leader who's trying to like not great replacement, great reset the world by like trapping people in these bubbles and then draining acid on the world. But like the fact that she's a cult leader isn't really ever explored. Clara doesn't do anything. Vastra, Strax, and Jenny are here, and they're really fun to follow, and they get most of the episode. But then the doctor comes and assaults a lesbian.
Oh no, you're right. This had okay, yeah. B tier is out of the question.
Yeah, I think it's like bottom of C.
It's not the bottom.
Okay,
It's a
you're
little
right.
above the bottom of C,
Okay.
but it's worse than Vampires in Venice.
Oh, easy. I think I'm gonna put it. Although I am gonna put it like above Dinosaurs, but below Victory.
It's above Dinosaurs. It's above Victory for me, actually, but it's below whatever's above Victory.
Snowmen.
It's below Snowman
It's
for
just
sure.
yeah. I don't know. I like the villain. I like the blind woman. I just wish that the doctor didn't assault a lesbian.
But it's going to get worse because we have to talk about Nightmare in Silver.
Do you remember now?
So I remember, and I like this episode so much more than you did. I think it's the Neil Gaiman episode that I might have more positive memories of.
That's not true. Here's the thing.
Gaslit.
No, it's one of those things because a lot of these episodes in Series 7, they start out strong and then they just face flop. Like,
Yeah, they just
completely.
cannonball into a pool of acid.
So this is the episode with Mr. Clever, the alter ego of the Doctor who's being...
I forgot about Mr. Clever.
Yeah.
Throw it away. C tier, F tier. Get it away from me.
Get it away from me! Striking
Okay.
matches and throwing the lit matches at it.
I'm remembering what I liked about this episode. There is an actor who I really like in it who plays, spoiler, the Emperor of a Space Empire who's hiding. The ending that I remembered us hating is that you find out his motivation is he just wanted to get away for a while. And he people fucking died to accomplish that goal. And
He could have
neither the story nor him cares.
He could have ended the story and saved everybody at any moment.
He could have ended it in Act 1. It is very poorly constructed. I was really just hauled along by the charisma of that actor. He's also
Yes.
in the 10th Kingdom. I'm a big fan of him.
No, he did nothing wrong. That actor did nothing wrong, and he still hasn't. But that character is so despicable to me because I'm like, ew, you're just like some rich like emperor who he just wanted to live a normal life, which meant a bunch of people needed to get killed by a Cyberman before he did anything.
Yeah, I do like... Okay, listing things that I like about the episode. I like that Clara gets a lot to do. She essentially
Yes.
has to become a drill sergeant. She takes to it really well. She has a cool defensive position.
Mm-hmm.
It's softened a little bit by the fact that the whole episode is meaningless.
Yeah.
But I still like that she gets a role and we
Yes.
see her blossom in it.
Yes. The other thing I will say, Mr. Clever ruins it for me. I don't like the fact that this Cyberman program is infecting the Doctor's brain, and instead of doing what Cybermen do, which is removing emotions, it makes him louder and more annoying.
It's like Bailiff, make him cringe.
So you just have two Matt Smiths just shouting and screaming and going red-faced for 45 minutes, and it's so insufferable.
I think
Like,
we're I think we're at the top of tragic. I think you've convinced me that I actually hated this episode.
that's why I said, like, no, you didn't like this one more than the Doctor's Wife.
I wasn't gaslit. You were just right.
Thank you. We have 3 more episodes. Our pain is almost over.
The suffering is nearly complete.
The
It's time
name
to
of the
resolve some of the
Doctor-
biggest mystery boxes in the show.
Maybe. No, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely do that. Name of the
This
Doctor.
is the Doctor's grave in Trenzalore.
Yes.
I love Trenzalore because they want it to be the most dark and serious name that the Doctor's heart breaks to hear. But all I can think of is that it sounds like steroids.
This episode.
Oh no, he's going to Trenzalore. His traps are about to inflate.
Oh no, not the inflation episode.
Yeah.
The name of the Doctor is the one where it reveals that Clara is jumped into the Doctor's time stream and split herself into a million people to save him from the Great Intelligence, which split himself into the Doctor's time stream to kill him over and over again. And then Clara, like...
Hey.
Yeah?
Hey, Todor O, this episode sucked.
Yes. And she doesn't actually... So they tried to do this thing where they, like, celebrate the whole show by, like, recreating... Not recreating, but, like, recoloring scenes from the classic era and throwing Clara in... Like, editing her into them. And I think the editing work ranges in quality, but...
I didn't need it to be good quality. I think it's a charming idea.
Yes.
It's gross to me that Clara is doing it.
My problem is that Clara does not have the emotional investment in the Doctor to be doing this, and also the fact that she doesn't actually do anything. Like,
I turned to this man on the couch as she was doing this heroically, eviscerating her life into 1,000 time threads, and I looked over at you and I was like, she's known him for 4 weeks.
Like, literally, like, she has
This should be Amy.
Yeah, and I'm like, I wanted Amy gone, but this should have been Amy. It doesn't help that Clara doesn't have, like, a personality to rub together between episodes. And all of those scenes that they showed in the original series, she couldn't have saved him from any of those moments.
Yeah, that's my favorite takedown of this episode, is that she's like, actually, I was everywhere all the time in every episode saving you through all of time. And it's like,
no, you weren't.
We watched those episodes. Like, what did you do?
Yeah,
what did you do?
That's just fact. Like, I'm not saying that it's emotionally incorrect. I'm saying it's factually incorrect. Like, the scene where the seventh Doctor is hanging from that balcony. First of all, that scene sucks if you watch the actual episode. It's very funny. But Clara is like 50 feet away, pounding on the other side of glass, yelling his name. What is she?
She's just running.
What do you mean? And also, like, the Oswin, the Claras that we met in the Snowman and the Asylum of the Daleks didn't know who he was. Why did these ones? I don't get what the mechanics are supposed to be of this.
She didn't die to save him the other 2 times either.
No, she just dies. It's literally just like this woman gets split off into a million pieces and then dies over and over again.
And now Clara's lived 100,000 lifetimes and she has elite hacker skills downloaded into her head and what? Like, she's not even a richer character for it.
So at the end of Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, they reset the timeline, right? Remember? So she doesn't remember her having this confrontation with the Doctor about, like, her being a mystery box and him not respecting her or whatever. But then in this episode, she just kind of starts getting her memories back because they're on Trenzalore or something.
Ah, the magic of Trenzalore, the most tragic planet where his grave is super big.
And he's like, don't think, that's just your memories coming back. And she's like, my memories coming back? Like, what do you mean? Like the disrespect that the female companions get in Matt Smith's era is so crazy. They don't have any agency. And the biggest thing about this episode is that it doesn't end. It doesn't have an ending. It just stops. The episode stops.
That was bizarre.
The episode,
like, they played some dramatic chords and then it was credits and I was like, whoa,
it literally just stops mid-sentence, like The Sopranos, but less artful. And it was just so that they could introduce John Hurt as the Doctor?
I did like seeing a different face. It felt like a light at the end of the tunnel.
I guess.
I was so, I am. If there's only one Matt Smith hater on the planet, he's me.
You really... Yeah, I mean, but he, like... And it's not
Oh
Matt...
wait, this is going on YouTube. I don't personally hate Matt Smith.
It's the 11th
I was very
Doctor.
tired of seeing the 11th Doctor. Yeah.
Yeah. The 11th Doctor, upon rewatch, I'm like, no, he gets worse and worse as the time goes on. And the show doesn't seem to think that.
They make some real rough decisions of where to take him, it's difficult.
Matt Smith did a lot good in his portrayal. I think Matt Smith is a great actor. I think he did a great job with what he was given. But the 11th Doctor is demonstrably maybe my least favorite Doctor of the modern era that we've talked about so far. So
third place out of 3.
Throw it away.
I think this is bottom of tragic.
Woof.
I don't think this is as bad as the James Corden episodes.
You're right. It's not as bad as those episodes down there. It's not as bad as Let's Kill Hitler, but it is a tragic finale. A lot of these episodes, by the way, for Series 7 were first drafts, and it shows. Now we have The Day of the Doctor, the 50th anniversary special of the whole show. It's a multi-Doctor story with the return of David Tennant and the introduction of the War Doctor, played by John Hurt, who does an incredible job, because they couldn't get the 9th Doctor back, Christopher Eccleston, because he didn't like the script.
Listen, keep slaying Christopher Eccleston.
Literally. I don't hate this episode. I actually like a lot of it. I think Clara's presence here is a continued grievance of mine.
She's such a third wheel.
But she's also the most important one.
That's the amazing thing. Like, I feel so gaslit watching Clara's era because she has the presence of a third wheel. She is compelling to look at and to watch because she's a talented actress with a beautiful face.
Jenna Louise Coleman is a goat. She's the goat. She's a great actor. She would make an incredible companion. She didn't.
And so, like, she didn't.
But it's not her fault.
I look at her and I'm like, Doctor Who companion. And I'm like, sorry, I should have put an asterisk. Well-written Doctor Who companion. I feel gaslit watching because she has the presence of a third wheel, but the story will verbally tell you that she is a deep and integral and heavily bonded with the Doctor. It was a little cheesy that it was like the Bad Wolf algorithm runs the super weapon, and so of course it manifests as Rose, who the Doctor in wartime hasn't met yet.
It wasn't the Bad Wolf algorithm. It was the the moment, which is this mass weapon. It projects itself to you as somebody that you might like or something. But because it was created by Time Lords and is thus not chained to any one timeline, it manifested itself as Rose to him, and he's like, I don't know who you are, and she's like, but you will. But Billie
doesn't
Piper
she introduce
is
herself
here.
with the Bad Wolf?
I think she calls herself the Big Bad Wolf, but she doesn't. Yeah, something like that.
I mean, overall, I was like, this is cheesy, but like, it's
Billie
nice
Piper's here.
to see her.
Yeah. Billie Piper is great. I love to see her. I love to see David Tennant. He's doing really well. Matt Smith and him are like really good together, actually. I think they bounce off of each other quite well.
Yeah, like, I think Matt Smith's chemistry with other doctors becomes evidence of how dirty we were all done.
One thing that I don't like, and this is such a minor thing, this is just like a writing thing that I personally don't like. I don't like the fact that Moffat makes fun of the Doctor speeches. So, like, he'll do this thing where the 10th Doctor is looking at a rabbit, and he thinks that it's a Zygon, so he, like, makes a big speech about how he's the Doctor. And then it's like, bah, 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 some, like, tuba chords play. And it's like, bah, 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 oh, that was silly. Oops. Oh, I made a speech to a rabbit. What a silly speech to make. And it's like, Moffat, you can't make fun of the thing that you want us to take seriously for the last 3 seasons.
Yeah, it's like you, my brother in Christ, you did the monologues.
You did them. You can't make fun of the monologues. You subjected me to them every episode. But other than that nitpick and Clara's presence, I think it's a strong story. I like the Zygons. I'm always happy when the Zygons appear. I like shape-shifting aliens. I like the
I also am really fond of. It actually does pull a bunch of threads together.
yeah.
And I was like begrudgingly satisfied with how it pulled some threads together. Like the fact that even the silence and the question kind of made sense.
Oh, that's next episode.
God damn it.
The 50th anniversary is where they go
Oh, this
back
is how
to...
he unkills the Time Lords.
Yes, which I love.
And I thought, this was a really clever way to unkill the Time Lords. I didn't think this would be satisfying. I thought it would be contrived.
Yeah.
And it is technically a contrivance, but it doesn't suck.
No, I like the fact that it unkills them and puts them in like this pocket of time, and I like that opens doors to the Time Lords maybe eventually returning.
Yeah, and it's like you did this and you regretted it because you knew it was wrong. Well, guess what, motherfucker? You lived with it, but also you found another way.
Yeah, and
You just didn't realize you did.
And I think it's cool that at the end of the episode they establish like, okay, the War Doctor and the 10th Doctor are not going to remember this because they're going to go back to their own timelines and think that they killed and I think that's totally fine because Matt Smith is also we are talking about three versions of one man. So I don't know, I really like the 50th anniversary. I don't love the character of Osgood. I think she's like this weird pastiche of a millennial Doctor Who fan that feels insulting and kind of childish. But I really like the moment in the basement of Unit when the doctors are like, we're going to make sure that neither of you know which ones are the humans and which ones are the Zygons. That's how we're going to end this war. I thought that was really fun. Oh, Kate Stewart. Yeah. Kate Stewart. I like Kate Stewart. She's the head. She's the head of Unit. We met her in The Power of Three, and she comes back in The Day of the Doctor.
The question I want to ask is, has this earned A tier? We've discussed some great things. We've discussed some flaws. I mean, I think I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed all of B tier.
Nothing in A tier is flawless. So I think I'm okay with putting The Day of the Doctor in A tier.
Let's do it.
I think I enjoy the clone episodes more, honestly, but I think this is a solid place to put it. And finally, the time of the Doctor. The Matt Smith regeneration episode.
We ended up liking the end of the Matt Smith era because of a couple big choices.
The last two episodes.
I think this is a really fitting end to like his toy maker persona.
Yeah, I don't like it's so frustrating almost though, because it's like, man, I wish we'd had this Doctor for all 3 seasons. And that way this end would make me feel so much more. I love the fact that he just like stays on this one planet, because that's also like an arc of the Doctors, of the 11th Doctor, where it's like, oh, he's always running away, he never stays. Even in The Power of Three, like, he left because he was bored. But in this episode, he commits. He's had time to grow, ostensibly. For the most part, this is a really good episode. Everything on Matt Smith's part is really good. Clara, I'm still not sold, and I wish I was. I think her speech to the Time Lords, because the whole thing is like, the Time Lords are trying to communicate through a crack in time. The Doctor, tell us your real name, and then so we can come back into this timeline.
Yeah.
Which I'm okay with, and I also even like the resolution of Clara being like, his name is the Doctor. Like, that's his name. I think that's a strong...
And then they replied, Doctor Who?
No, that was the question. Which, by the way, I know we haven't mentioned it. Every episode, after season 6, every episode we had to hear Doctor Who. It was incessant.
The question was pretty bad. I was not a fan of the question.
So, yeah, so the Time Lords are like, Doctor Who? Because they're asking for his real name, and Clara's like, his real name is the Doctor, because that's who he chooses to be. Which is coming off of The Day of the Doctor. That's also like part of it. And I think that's like a really good resolution to the idea of his name being important. But if I didn't have to hear that stupid question every single episode, I think I would like it more.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was so jaded at this point that it was a little bit I'm Ray Skywalker for me.
Oh, Ray Skywalker. Yeah. I mean, even Ray Skywalker, I think, was never a good idea, but you could have done some legwork to make it work. And the same with this, although I think this is kind of better in a lot of ways. I
I
like,
think objectively this is better,
yeah,
but I was like
I
I
really,
was just choosing not to think about it too much.
I really love the scenes with Clara's family at Christmas. Shockingly, I remember really enjoying those moments because nothing plot was no sci-fi was happening. It was just like character interactions, which I shouldn't be praising him for this. Like, this is my problem. It's like I want to rank things high, but then I'm like, no, but I'm ranking them on a curve because I shouldn't be praising him for writing competent character interactions.
I do think this finale is A tier. This regeneration thing.
Well, I will say I think his regeneration is weak in my opinion. I
Oh,
Yes, I don't like his speech. I think it goes on for too long, and I don't like the fact that he, because in the episode he stays on this planet and ages, like like ages throughout the years. He's on Trenzalore. Um, no, he is. That's like
sorry. I thought it sounds so much like a drug that I thought that's what you were saying.
he's taking steroids throughout the years and he's just aging like a raisin, and he ages and he gets really old, and there's this beautiful scene between him and Clara where they go to pull the Christmas cracker, but she helps him because he's so old and like frail now, and I thought it was really good. I don't like the fact that he gets to be young again right before he regenerates. I It just feels like such fan service, I guess. It's like, oh, we can't have our hot young doctor be old and gross. He has to be young before he regenerates. And I'm like, oh, God.
Oh right, yeah, that was so. That was tragic.
And
It was
then,
like an unendorsement of their own choice to age him.
yeah, and then they have him hallucinate Amy Pond for some reason, and they're both wearing horrible wigs. And it's just,
Oh yeah.
and it's just embarrassing, and it's like Clara's standing right there, and you're like, oh my god, the show hasn't done anything to make Clara like
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna stand here and fiercely speak my truth. That uncomfortable scene could be a deliberate and honest portrayal of Clara as the third wheel that echoed through time.
like
And
literally,
and it realizes her true presence
yeah,
as just an awkward, overshadowed mystery box person who is the result of the studio's need to swap out two actors for the same role.
like why wasn't, again, even though Amy overstayed her welcome, she should have been here for this. Like the whole, like, again, people complain about Rose and they're like, oh, Rose overshadowed the whole era. And first of all, no, she didn't. Secondly, Amy overshadowed this entire era. Amy was the one who was constantly on the Doctor's mind, never stopped, mentioning her all the time, and she gets to be here for his regeneration? Why?
I love this. It's such a funny thing when there's different showrunners working and it's like, oh, yeah, Rose was the companion that I fell in love with, and Donna was the companion who made me the best version of myself. But Amy Pond was my favorite.
Like, for what? For what? Because she was a
What does she
redheaded
do?
Scottish lady?
Is it because she was sexy and she worked at the
Feisty.
kissing booth?
Oh.
Feisty?
Now, for all of that said, I don't think Time of the Doctor is a bad episode. I think I would put it in B.
I'm with you. That sounds good.
I think it's like the same as A Christmas Carol, honestly. I think it's on the same level. Maybe a little bit
Yeah.
less.
Yeah, it's like, you're right. It's got the same, like, oh, it was actually able to pull on certain emotional strings.
Also, this is another nitpick. I don't like the fact that, like, Moffat has to keep doing this thing where every finale has every monster from Doctor Who canon.
Oh, yeah, that's goofy.
Like, I didn't like that. I don't like that the... Stop bringing the angels back. Oh my god, stop. Stop making them, like, just aliens. I don't... Ugh. Anyway.
Look at this ranking. There's some good stuff at the top.
There is some good stuff at the top, and there is some boot nasty stuff at the bottom, mama.
Everything goated and in A tier, I'm like, I fully unironically enjoyed this, no reservations.
Easy.
And then B tier and down, it's like,
I would say that everything from goated to the middle of C, I genuinely can just, like, enjoy. Everything below that, I don't want to think about it. Goated and A are the only ones where I'm like, this is Doctor Who, baby.
It's like overdone on the internet, but now I personally have just newly gotten the perspective that created that meme. Is like, once I recognize Moffat's favorite tropes, his calling cards, his sense of humor that bleeds into the writing even when he's writing in a big room or with a big team, I start to realize the things that are Moffat, I do hate them.
And it sucks because he showed a ton of promise in the RTD era when he was doing one-off stories. Like the Weeping Angels concept. But he had to keep bringing them back. The river concept. He had to keep bringing her back. The idea of people being uploaded into a cloud. Great. Why did you do that 3 more times in your own era? Like,
I think he has certain ideas that he finds compelling.
which is fine. All writers do. But the problem is he focuses so much on those ideas and not enough on the characters that he's writing or on taking his character's emotions seriously. I think Amy suffers the worst. And I mean literally suffers. Like, as a character suffers.
Yeah.
Like, as a human being, having gone through everything that Amy went through, yeah, it's just she gets the blunt end of this, the brunt of it.
Yeah, and once you've discovered the Moffatisms, you're then like, oh, this is all of Sherlock.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if I need to finish the Time Traveler's Wife series, because it didn't immediately bother me, but I wonder if these same issues creep in.
You should read the book.
You know what?
The book
Good
is
idea.
the book is great. It's one of the few like romance novels where I'm like, oh, this has like something to say about the nature of love.
I want you to be aware that Stephen Moffat's current project that he's working on is called Douglas is Cancelled.
Well, anyway, thanks everybody for being here. We sure love that you that you watch this. So okay, we're going into the Capaldi era. What are you looking forward to? What are you thinking?
Who, me?
Yeah, of course you.
Okay, so what I like, so Moffat's still at the helm, but Capaldi is like an older guy, so he can neither portray him as a toy maker nor a sex pest.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a huge relief for me. Maybe in fitting with a new dynamic with a new doctor who is not so tethered to Amy, Clara may become someone. But mostly what I'm looking forward to is if like Capaldi's theatrical chops lend themselves to a couple really nice, like, let your brain chew on this type of episodes.
Yeah, I will say, Capaldi specifically told Stephen Moffat that he would not have his doctor kiss his companions. So that's a plus.
Moffat had to be told.
Well, Capaldi was like a lifelong fan of Doctor Who, so he's like, no, I'm not having my doctor kiss my companion. That's not the doctor to me. That's awesome though. Look at this. Look at this list. We did so good.
Look at us figuring out slowly that the era was kind of mixed.
Mixed is one way to put it. No,
there's
I
posts
think
on the top, there's posts on the bottom.
No, I know it was mixed. You're right. I'm just like, it's one of those things where you get to series 7 and you finish it and you're just like tapped out on the 11th Doctor and Moffatisms. Alonzi, I guess, as another doctor would say. Geronimo. That's it.